ESPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Good morning. Thought I'd help you wake up.
It's 6 a.m. and you're listening to The John Kincade Show, Philadelphia's longest-running sports talk morning show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Let the party begin!
The show starts now.
That seems a little more like it. John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. Your Wednesday morning begins with us, and we thank Bradford White Water Heaters because Bradford White is here for the pro, and they're here for the 6 o'clock hour of the show as we begin today. Adam Schefter at 8 o'clock. We should have some interesting conversation with Adam. I wonder if he'll dish the tea a little bit, spill it with us, and tell us what's going to go on with the exit interviews today. I'm thinking of the secretary at it, outside of Jeffrey Lurie's office or the main boardroom over there at NovaCare. I'm thinking of sitting at that desk today. And they will be doing not only exit interviews, and they'll do them in another section of the building, but when Mr. Lurie and Howie Roseman decide to talk to you, you maybe get called into this big room. I'm guessing they have, a fantastic breakfast spread out, lunch spread out, so when you come in, you can grab a cup of coffee or something like that and then get down to the meeting of deciding the aftermath of what happened. We all know what happened on Monday night. We all know what happened the last 6 weeks of the regular season. But in all honesty, does anyone feel like they know what happened? Does anybody truly feel, and I've said the line over and over again that I do believe that San Francisco game broke this team. But I don't know what that means. I just know what the results were on that afternoon and then every afternoon that they played or evening since, how things worked out for this team. None of us seem to really know. And reading all the local beats yesterday and some of the great blog sites even that have some really good content on the Eagles, everybody's guessing. Everybody's trying to come up with their theory about what actually broke down. So I read from a couple of the beats that there was a disconnect between Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, and Jalen Hurts. And what was strange is some of it was depicted, it seems veiled, that there was a problem with Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts. And then it seems like the disconnect may have been between Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. We don't know. And because nobody spilled the tea yet and told us what's going on. And we all have our theories. It appears that some of the veterans in the locker room on the defensive side of the ball did not like the change to Matt Patricia. And I had said to you before, it seemed a bit odd that we had Darius Slay go get his knee surgery right when Matt Patricia took over. In fact, within 36 hours, the same 36 hours that we learned about it publicly, both events happened. There's just strange things. But do we know anything? No, we do not. And I guess it's good that some of this stuff is still veiled at NovaCare. But today begins the process. Today are the exit interviews. I want answers. And to start it, I want the big cardboard boxes to be handed out to every member of the defensive staff. I want a complete house cleaning. Complete house cleaning. I want the next person who takes that job to know it is a clean slate, the tabula rasa. You can go on in there and you can absolutely do what you want to do, recruit who you want, bring in the best coaches available. I also want to know that if it is true that part of the reason this season derailed is because of a Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson, Jalen Hurts, whatever it is, disconnect. That experiment has to end. The play calling was horrendous. Troy Aikman called it out. By the way, and I want to thank one of the blog sites yesterday, and I'm sorry, I do not know which one, pointed out that there were 36 different comments about the Eagles' offense that were negative. on Monday night. So Brian Johnson, I would invite him to his path to a head coaching job, that it go elsewhere from somewhere else. I want answers today, though. I want to know, and I want this to be accountable. And I also want this to be known. I do not want Nick Sirianni to go, and I do not want Howie Roseman to go. But I want both of them to be told, this is your last chance to get it right. And for Howie, you've hired 3 coaches. And if I was Jeffrey Lurie, I would say, Howie, you will not hire a 4th. You are not going to hire a 4th. You are going to fix this like you have fixed things before, and that's what you're going to do. But you will not hire a 4th coach. You are going to fix what is broken and see if you can salvage this. So I want Nick and Howie tied at the hip. Their successes tied at the hip. That's what I want on this exit interview day. Bob Cooney, good morning to you. What do you want on this exit interview day?
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to get answers, because if you're looking for a specific answer of what went wrong, that means only one thing went wrong to me. You know what I mean? I think there's a myriad of problems that were going on over there, whether it's on the field, off the field. I just think there was a bunch of things, because one problem, you got to tell me that a professional organization could fix it, right?
Yes.
Whether it's, being thoroughly beaten up by the San Francisco 49ers and not being able to recover from that on the field. Well, all right, come on. That's a rally the troops. That's a sports thing. You guys are down. Let's pick it up. Let's go. You've won 10 of 11 before that game. You should be better than that. Is it the myriad of disconnect, like you said, John, of Johnson, of Sirianni,
That's
of
very
Hurts?
vague, by the way.
Yeah,
Those
it is.
stories.
Yeah, that's why it's disconnected. If it was connected, it'd be an easy story. But disconnection isn't easy to put your thumb on. I don't know. It seems to me when something goes this badly, it's funny. Like my nephew, who I told you is a season ticket holder for the Ravens, texted me yesterday, and he's like, "Do Philly fans have to relax, like firing coaches a year after the Super Bowl and all that?" And I said, "Yeah, I hear you, but you're an outsider looking in. This is to me, it seems like the coaching staff lost the players."
And we don't have John Harbaugh. If he'd like to send him up 95, right? I'll pay the tolls.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So I don't know. I don't. What answers today? There's so many questions to ask. Hopefully you get some answers of all this. Whether you can, gather and all of a sudden it becomes one big ball of here's your answer of what went wrong. I think it's really complicated. I do. I think it's complicated of what went on, and I don't know if even they have the answers of what happened.
Well, if they don't know those answers, though, how do you progress through what needs to be done? Because you've got to get on your horse. Like if you make a decision that you want to move on, I'll go on the record. I do not want to see them make a change at head coach today. I don't want to see it. I thought about it. I want to see Howie and Sirianni fix it. And I want to see competent coordinators be brought in here. But if they don't get to these answers quickly, I mean, it's got to be quick.
Yeah, well, the answer is simple. You get better talent, you get better coaches. I mean, it's like good talent will hide a lot of problems, right? You could go out on a field and have a mediocre coach, but if you have the best talent out there, it's going to make him look better. Or if you have great coaches, they're going to make and look, Jalen Hurts needs good coaching. He does. There's talent there. We know all that. The Tom House stuff that he went through, the improvements that he made. He can be a very good NFL quarterback, but he needs good coaching. I don't know if he had it this year. So it's incumbent upon them to plug the holes that they have, X and O wise. And it's also they have to get better offensive and defensive coordinators.
Well, also, too, I want different coordinators, not just different people. I want a different approach to the hiring this time. I want people that have a more accomplished resume. I want people who have more NFL experience. I want people who are not just being, we think this guy is the next best thing. If you want to hire one of those guys that you think is the next best thing, I'm okay with it. As long as one of the coordinators is a veteran who potentially could help Nick Sirianni take control of the wheel when he starts to lose control of his team, and that's what he did this year. Pat, what are you hoping for on exit interview day? And good morning to you, buddy.
Everybody fired.
You want cardboard boxes. Recycle day is going to be terrible with you around.
Oh, well.
You want them all out.
Oh, well, I mean, I want Sirianni and company to start looking for realtors. My opinion hasn't changed from yesterday.
Nothing.
They need to go. I understand the point that you guys are making of, look, you let them fix it and get competent coordinators. You're basically saying, though, to me, okay, well, I need adults to hold this guy's hand to have him coach. Like, we've all worked for bosses that you go, yeah, you ain't it.
Okay.
Like, I know you're not it. And the other people around him, they're great, but they're holding the boss's hand. And that's to me what would be happening with Sirianni. Like, he was doing all this with smoke and mirrors because he had great coordinators. And then once those coordinators went away and you had Tweedledee and Tweedledum, he didn't know what to do. And the fact that as the leader of the ship, you didn't know how to fix it. And every week play the same cut of him saying, hey, we're running out of time. I know we got to fix this. We're going to get at it. We're going to get this thing right. And it never happened. And finally the season ends like it did against a bad Bucs team. And he has to come on and say, yep, never happened. You had no answers. So why am I going to think that all of a sudden with new coordinators that if all of us, the team goes into a tailspin, you'll know how to fix it?
Because
you won't.
Because if you hire the right coordinators,
then make one of those guys the head coach. Because if they know how to fix it, then they are the head coach. Having Nick Sirianni as head coach at that
figurehead
point,
to you,
is nothing more than a figurehead. Is a great way to put it.
It's a very interesting thing too. Is that I'm worried, and is one of my favorite expressions, but I'm worried that the Eagles are going to kick the can. And they are going to try to say, oh, all we need to do is just a little blemish cover-up when you got a face full of zits. They need to get Dr. Pimple Popper in here, and they need to make there need to be some wholesale changes to what they do. And I think that with the talent on the roster that exists right now, Bob, they can still keep it from being a total rebuild where you crash and burn and have to fix things up. So to me, but I don't want them to just say, yeah, we did a little tweak here, tweak there. We'll be right back where we were in 2022.
Yeah, no, because my big thing is the disconnect between the coaches and the players. I mean, it seemed obvious for the last, at least 5 weeks. Players didn't believe what they were. I don't think, from my opinion of watching, I don't think they believed in their coaching staff. That's one of the worst things that can happen when you don't believe of what they're scheming up for you, where they're telling you to go. That's like unrecoverable, for a lack of a better word. So the Sirianni thing, my head, I think more of what will the team do, not what I would do, because nobody gives a flying crap what Bob Cooney would do with this team, because I don't have any say. What do I think the organization will do? I do think they're going to keep him, Pat. I don't know why. I just do. I don't know if it's a save face kind of thing like we're talking about, or if it's you go back to, look, when he oversaw a team that went to a Super Bowl and went 14-3 and almost won it all. Can't give up on that right away. Yeah, the coordinator stuff didn't work out last year. Let's get really good coordinators and let Nick oversee it like he did 2 years ago. That was a winning formula. I wouldn't say that I would say that I can see what their thinking is on that.
And Pat, I think your point is very, very clear, and I think a lot of people absolutely feel the exact same way you do.
Yeah, it's probably 50-50. I think 50% agree with you guys, and 50% are probably on mine. And I think we're all 100% in agreement that what can't happen is what you laid out, John. You can't come in and go, all right, a little tweak here, a little tweak there.
Yeah, not going to happen. So here's the deal. I was able yesterday to get, that Howie Roseman is going to be making sure that he listens this morning. And Howie's going to wander over. He's going to make sure that he listens this morning. And every single listener that wants to give him a piece of advice, he's looking for one question you would have on exit interview day. You're allowed to ask one question. You can't ask two. It's not for you to make a statement. Don't be like some of the beat reporters that I've seen at recent press conferences on TV making statements and asking people to affirm them. You have to ask a question. So you get to ask Sirianni a question. You get to ask Brian Johnson a question. You get to ask Jalen Hurts a question. You're going to get to give him one piece of advice he wants to know. So, Howie, we appreciate you listening this morning, and you're going to hopefully get some good advice. We will have one question from each of us, from myself, Bob, and Pat, and then we want them from you at 610-632-0975. Help the Eagles get through the exit interview day. Plus, huge win for the Sixers last night. Huge statement by Joel Embiid. Things did, let's say, take a turn for the positive. John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic. I love it when winter is, toasty warm inside your house and you're looking out at the beautiful snowfall. That was great the last couple days. But what I also Exit interview day at NovaCare Center. Now, what do people take away from that first segment? John here on Twitter says, you actually think that they're putting out a spread for exit interviews? I would imagine that there's food today. But first off, there's always food in the facility. I've only been in 4 or 5 times in my life, but there's usually food out. They have a beautiful catering staff right there that feeds the players, feeds the employees, and everything like that. So I'm sure there's stuff out. He's thinking that it's much more businesslike. It's an empty boardroom. He says, I see an empty boardroom where you sit at one end and they sit at the other.
Yeah, the players are pretty quick in and out. It's not usually a long, at least, I know from exit interviews in the NBA on the last day. Players go in, they get their off-season workout routine that's all laid out for them, and they get that package, a couple of questions here and there, and then they're out. So I don't think they're breaking bread with the players.
What about the coaches?
What about them?
The coaches that they're bringing. Do you think it's a short interview that we've decided to move on? Thanks for your time. Or do you think it's how do you think it went? Can we get any information for you before we drop the building on you?
No, you probably have meetings. I think. I would hope, like anything. Howie and Jeffrey Lurie, you need to have all the information in front of you. They probably have most of it. Is there a couple questions they need answered? Sure. Sure, you want to. I mean, that's the way I would do business. I'm not just like hiding from somebody and firing them. But you've seen it, though, covering beats. You've been around on these days. You've been around on locker clean out day. You've been around. Is that I'm wondering how awkward it's going to get. Because today is there's people in Pat's camp that say Pat, it's sort of like last year this time when we're getting ready for the NFC divisional round. Anybody can come in and get it.
Yes. Unfortunately, the get it is a pink slip.
That's a little different today. We have people who want to get in. 610-632-0975. And we will hear. I've got one question for one person. Bob will have one question for one person. And Pat will also. I want to hear your one question on exit interview day that you want to get an answer about that will maybe help this organization move forward for 2024. Chris in Allentown's first up today. Chris, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Good morning, gentlemen. Well, the season ended the way it started. Really crappy. Yeah, we'll take the 10 wins, but really crappy. So I'm Howie Roseman. I'm sitting there looking at Nick, and I'm like, hey, Nick, listen, I gave you 0 talent on defense. Can you explain to me what the heck happened on the offensive side of the ball?
I think that's awesome. I think that's an awesome question. But the only thing is, the questions of what happened on the offensive side of the ball, don't you have to go to the people who were directly responsible for that?
That's what I'm offensive coordinator. I mean, first of all, today I'm firing anybody that's on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody. Anybody and everybody that has anything to do with defense is all fired. And the second thing is I'm finding a coach that if we're replacing Nick, I want a guy like Mike Tomlin to come here. So there's a little bit of hard-nosed. This whole, country club feeling at the football. These guys are getting paid millions of dollars to go out and produce, and they're not producing.
Well, he's not. Mike Tomlin's staying, which would be, believe me, Chris, I would love that. I would love a no-nonsense guy like Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, it's so funny, the perception of everything. And I talked to somebody that's a Pittsburgh fan, and they're like, yeah, everybody loves Tomlin, but what has he done? I said, what are you talking about? 17, winning seasons in a row. Yeah, winning seasons. He doesn't win in the playoffs.
Only 4 times has he won a game.
Yeah, I said, well, is he taking teams that shouldn't be the playoffs to the playoffs, or is it a case of you have good teams and you're not getting the most of that out of them in the playoffs? And he was like, yeah, I don't know, but it's not neither one is the right answer. He just doesn't win in the playoffs. Is it lack of talent and he's overcoaching in that they get there and that's a surprise? Or do they have the talent and he's not coaching well enough to win a playoff game?
I know this. I don't believe that if Mike Tomlin was the coach of the Eagles, he would never last. He would never have lasted as long as he has with the Steelers because they would have fished and cut bait at some point on Mike Tomlin. He would have gone. I think John Harbaugh, if he was the coach of the Eagles, he wouldn't be where he's at right now. He wouldn't be. They would have moved on by now. I don't think the Eagles are ever going to be that patient that they're going to allow someone to have the down moments that they need to have, that they can have. And there are many coaches. If you want to have a coach with tenure, Andy Reid had down moments. and they didn't gas him during the down moments. And now it didn't deliver a Super Bowl, but it delivered the greatest continued success that this organization and this city of Eagles football fans has ever seen.
Yeah, you look at most really good coaches. Well, really good coaches are going to stay somewhere for a while because they've earned that title of really good coaches.
Sure.
There's going to be down years. And I've talked about stability and all, and I do like stability. Well, stability also means that at times there might be a 7-10 season thrown in there or a down season like this year after a really good start. That's kind of expected. This year was different, though. This year wasn't like, okay, that's a year that maybe you can say, all right, down year, bring it back up. This went like to the cellar quickly. It was like getting on an elevator and, you didn't stop at any floor. You just went to the basement like that. That's alarming. And like I said that I told you to my nephew, it wasn't just bad football. It was a total disconnect, it seemed to me, between players and coaches.
Okay, Chris wanted to ask a question of Howie Roseman. That was, the first question of the day. Dredd is joining us. Dredd, now you've pulled up to NovaCare. You've walked in. You get to ask one question. Who are you asking the question to, and what is it?
I'm going to have to ask my question to Howie, man. And I'm going to ask Howie, what are you going to do about shoring up the backfield? Are you going to invest in the draft and spend real money in trades or just keep replacing players?
Are you talking about specifically one position group?
In the secondary, in the linebackers, safeties, and corners.
Okay. I got to tell you, I worry a little bit, Dredd, about the defensive line, too. I land that plane safely there, Dredd. It sounded a little like he's flying. I think he's at 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
This morning. I like the first two questions, though, go to Howie. That's telling. That's telling.
Is.
Now, it's just Chris and Dredd, but.
Yeah. Well, if you need answers, you go to the top. So I can't. Mine will be different, but it'll be something that lends to the top. So I like that they want to go right to the top. I like that they want to go to the guy in charge and say, like, hey, what the hell's going on here?
Do you think Howie gets a pass, Pat, in this town?
Right now, a little bit. I think there's a lot of people, I'm one of them, who wanted Howie out 7 years ago.
When did you specifically want him out? Like, can you remember, like, when those shows? Because, I would listen to you guys on this station from a distance, but, do you remember the season? Was it?
Yeah, it was
before Doug?
No, it was after Doug.
Right.
After the Super Bowl, it was like probably 2000.
Okay. So it was right before I was getting here.
It was before the 2018 draft class hit, because up until that point, the knock on Howie wasn't that he wasn't like a decent football guy. I mean, he knew how to maneuver a cap. The knock on him was he tried to be the smartest guy in the room on draft day. The 2018 draft class really saved his job. He went into, I want to say 2021, and there were question marks abound. And then Josh Sweat broke out. Avonte Maddox solidified himself as a slot corner. Jordan Mailata ended up starting and looking pretty good. Like, it really did save I feel like it saved his job. I mean, this is post Jalen Reagor. This is post J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. This is post Andre Dillard. So the knock on it was like, look, I just need a guy who can be a talent evaluator. And then he ended up not being the smartest guy in the room, and going to the SEC and shopping in the right aisles. And I think there's so many people like that were calling for his head 4 or 5 years ago that don't want to go back to calling for his head. They don't want to be.
You mean that because they're afraid that they look like they waffled?
Yeah, because all of a sudden the guy at work's like, hold on, dude, you wanted him gone 4 years ago, and then you were back on, and now you're back off. So I think there's so many people like that they're just going to sit back and give him a little bit of a pass for a while. I think there's a pretty decent grace period with Howie.
Well, and here's the quickness of it all, of how feelings change. Beginning of the year, oh my God, look at this. Look at Jalen Carter and look at Jordan Davis. Wow, you're solidified in that middle for the next 10 years, whatever. What if those two guys turn out to be what they were in the second half of the season? What if Jordan Davis can never get in shape? What if he can't stay on the field? What if Jalen Carter was a spurt of greatness, but like that's all you're going to see right now? Do I believe that? No, I think Jalen Carter can be really special, but why wasn't he even heard from in the last 7 games of the season?
Most double-teamed, was reading yesterday, the most double-teamed rookie ever. and he was double
They
teamed
have
twice.
stats on that?
He was double teamed. Yes, they actually track it. He was double teamed more than Aaron Donald was in his rookie year. And that is so the thing is, though.
Well, then
does
Jordan
that mean-
Davis
well,
should have
that's-
prospered from that, and others should have prospered
Well,
from that.
that's what I would say is that then that reflects poorly on other people, that it didn't open up the gates for them. Jalen Carter should win Defensive Rookie of the Year going away.
Yeah, that's fine, but he sucked the last 7 games. You didn't hear his name the last 7 games of the season.
But if you're getting double teamed and you're getting neutralized, that's also not. That's also,
the kid-
not great either. You
The
know
kid
what I
for
mean?
the Rams that had like 9 sacks has probably something to say about the Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, when you're a rookie with 9 sacks, it's quite a bit.
I'd say that's a good number. I'd say it's a good number to
I
have.
don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I'm saying that he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year.
It's what I think Bob's point is clear though, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Is that perceptions change from month to month, from year to. I think to me, a drafted player needs at least 2 years till you can start to formulate what you think they are. And I think Jordan Davis has major questions to answer, like major capital letters questions to answer about how you can go from impactful to invisible. And I don't think those are two good words to be associated with someone there in the center of your line that is supposed to be swallowing up.
No,
You can't have that.
It's a real concern that 2 years in a row you drafted guys that we all agreed with. Great job, go to the
Right.
SEC, all of that. And guys that looked like they could be studly in that middle there, and replacements to older guys. It was the perfect move. They did the right thing. You got big fatties in there that could replace the fatties that were getting old, and they looked to be viable players. The question on Jordan Davis was, well, he didn't play all that much at Georgia, that was the Georgia style. Was it? I mean, now, yeah, okay,
Well,
it is
it was.
because
That
they
is,
have.
it was.
I understand that, but he can't get in shape to stay on the field, and then Baldy comes out saying that he knows that he's getting fined every week because he's not making weight. That's not good. Then you bring in Jalen Carter, falls to you at number 9, great, all of that, probably the best, most talented player in the draft. Why, for the second year in a row, does a rookie interior lineman just fall off the face of the earth? Is that organizational? Is that
Schematic?
Schematic? Is it because of the health crew that they have there, the medical team or weightlifting team or conditioning team? Are they not having these guys ready to play a full season?
I got much bigger questions about the veterans on the defensive side of the ball. Josh Sweat can't disappear for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I'm much more concerned about a veteran who disappears. I think that Hassan Reddick was absolutely – the fact that he doesn't want to come in and punch somebody, to me, shows great restraint. And the fact, Pat, too, that Hassan has not run his mouth about really what was done to him, and I'm going to say done to him schematically, I think is impressive. But to me, I'm more worried about the veterans. I'm more worried about the atrocious play of James Bradbury, the slide of – and it wasn't – I don't think it was terrible. But Darius Slay had to step back. But he wasn't terrible. I mean, people are making it out like he had an atrocious season. I don't believe that.
He was actually, I mean, Devontae Smith and I thought Darius Slay were one of the few bright spots.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
Monday.
I don't think Darius Slay had to fall off a cliff. But, I mean, I have more questions about the veterans on the D than I do the young players. Because I think that I haven't seen enough to know enough.
It's like I said yesterday. Everybody that's pointing fingers, at whoever you want to choose and all, you're all right. So I'll point the fingers at the rookies, too, and the young players in the interior line, and whoever else wants to. Everybody's right.
Well, there's a lot of
Everybody has
ammunition, right?
questions. Yeah. You can point fingers at anybody in this organization. I'm on board with you. I am. There's so much crap that went around in all this that everybody deserves questioning.
Okay, you know who doesn't deserve questioning? Joel Embiid with another great performance last night. You heard it here on 97.5 The Fanatic as the Sixers come back and a tremendous defensive effort and offensive effort in the fourth quarter to seal a victory by 5 points, 126-121 over the Denver Nuggets. But Embiid, in less than 48 hours, Bob, back-to-back 40-point performances. That was delicious last night with Nikola Jokic in the building.
Yeah, I would never use that word, but yeah, it was pretty cool to see. He's really good, and he grasps the moment better, I think, now in his career than he ever has before. And the moment being that it's the best team in the league, the defending champions, the guy that's going to battle him as the best player in the league for, maybe the next 3, 4, 5 years. It was funny. Pat and I would text it at halftime. We were texting about something else, and it was 78-78, and I said, I'm really anxious. This is where I really like Nick Nurse. You're going to see changes in the second half. Like the first half was, you know how much I love boxing. It was like two guys that are going out there that are flashy and just showing everything they have. The footwork, the jabs, it was everything.
The
And
whole
it was
repertoire
fun.
is being
And
displayed.
it was fun. And then it came halftime, and then came like the 10th round, and it was like, all right, man, I got to button down now. Now I really got to put in a game plan. And I texted Pat. I said, Nick Nurse, this is where I really like him. We're going to see a game plan in the second half. We're going to see something change. And Pat said, where? And I said, well, on the defense. And Pat goes, no bleep. They just let up 78 points. But they did. They came out with a different scheme. What I said was, you're going to see it. You're going to be able to see it. And I'm not putting down Doc Rivers or Brett Brown, but this is where I really like Nick Nurse. You could see it. So they come out and they're jumping the ball. They're jumping Jamal Murray so he's not getting a lot of, freewheeling open shots like he was getting. The Jokic they were doubling off of, which was cool, and they didn't mind switching. They were kind of, I don't want to say letting Jokic have his, but they were kind of, all right, we're going to take away everybody else, and we'll man up on him. They went more to Embiid on Jokic than they did in the first half. In the first half, it was more Batum and Tobias Harris and all. You saw a change in the defensive philosophy, and I love that Nick Nurse did that, and I love the way the team responded.
I love that thought process too. Is that if I was approaching the Nuggets, I would let Jokic get his. I'd worry about everybody else because he's not beating you. Joel Embiid on a monster night, Pat, I think can beat you. Can beat a lot of teams in this league. I think I'd give Jokic his points, and I'd shut down. I'd worry more about shutting down the rest.
It's funny. I had a coach one time, that my high school coach, Jimmy Crawford, legend, but he would tell us, force him left. If a guy didn't have that good of a left hand, if he was right-handed. And I remember one time we did it, and the kid went in, and he goes, I said force him left. I didn't say give him up, give up the left. Like, you want to force him to the side, but you still want to defend. I shouldn't say hate. I don't love the term, I'll let him have whatever. I never want to let anybody. But I would concentrate on taking away the other guy's moors. And I hear what you're saying, John. Like, I'm still playing. Joel Embiid's one of the best defenders in the league. My concentration would have been, I think Nick Nurse's was, cover Jokic, Joel. Do a good job on him. Do as best you can. Everybody else, we have to play better defense on the other surrounding guys, and I think they did that last night.
It's fun, Pat, when you see. There is I actually believe the MVP and the coaching, the MVP trophy and the coaching change. I see a different Joel Embiid. I think
he just looks. It's crazy. Every single year, it's like he can't get better. Then he gets better. I can't figure it out.
I think it's
the fact he had 10 assists last night.
Yeah.
And I thought about it before the game. Is he going to go out there and make a concerted effort to kind of pass the ball around on Jokic? And look, I mean, the Jokic is still the best passing big man maybe we've ever seen.
He's outstanding.
But it's just like, how many games is Nikola Jokic going out and the other guy has more assists than he does?
I love the fact that, to me, if there's one word, Bob, you always love the one word thing. The one word that I would use watching Joel Embiid is consistency. I tune into Sixers games, and it's a far more consistent Joel Embiid than I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I brought this up before, and I firmly believe it. I think that the way that Nick Nurse uses him in the rotation, 12 minutes to start the game guaranteed, I think that's so beneficial to him because I think Joel Embiid coming out mid-quarter, he'd play like 7-8 minutes under the other coaches and then come out. I think he needs that full quarter to get going. And then sitting him the first few minutes of the second allows Tyrese Maxey with that second unit to really take over. And Tobias Harris with that second unit really have good success. I love the way Nick Nurse has handled that aspect of this team so far, and I think Embiid enjoys it. And then, as we talked about many times, what's it been, 15 times this year that he didn't even have to play a fourth quarter?
And that's
beneficial.
outstanding.
That's really beneficial, yeah.
The halfway point of the season comes this week. We saw it with the Flyers a couple weeks ago. Now we see it with the Sixers this week. The first half of the season is coming to a close, halfway point of the season. Hey, Martin's going to have a question for exit interview day for the Eagles. The Eagles players, coaches, heading in, it's the day they say goodbye to the facility. How many of them will say goodbye permanently to the facility? I want to play a little game with that coming up, too. John Kincade Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, imagine if your favorite casino came with an undo button. Well, guess what? You get that. With FanDuel Casinos
and WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
You're about an hour outside Adam Schefter joining us for his weekly visit, ESPN NFL Insider. And with the Eagles being the top story in the NFL, I want them to dish today, Bob.
Wait, hold on. You think they're the top story in the NFL?
As far as the when you're not talking about on games, they're the most talked about team. I can tell you, yesterday they were all the NFL lives, the Eagles are the ones everybody's talking about.
Okay.
The turmoil.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the games itself, obviously, but I don't really think I don't want to make the assumption that people here really don't care as much about the games this weekend. That we'll be entertained when we see them.
Oh, I can't. Yeah,
Nobody's sitting here going, let's break down the games this weekend. I think there's a mourning period.
Oh, I need a week.
Yeah.
No, I do.
I'm really looking forward to the games this weekend.
Every time the Eagles are done, I need a
You need
week.
1 week.
I need 1 week to kind of just decompress, not watch, and sit back. And then after that week, I'm fine.
Do you think?
Wow.
Do you think it I can't wait?
Sorry, Bob.
No,
I'm
don't
not,
be sorry. I'm just saying,
not
wow.
as cool as you, man.
Wow,
and
it's cool.
I attain to be. I attain to be as cool
Dude,
as you.
You are.
I'm really not saying that. I just find it like that's cool. That's fine. You can
It's
be
not
wowed
cool,
without
Bob.
putting
I'm
you
a
down.
nerd. People are laughing at me.
I can't wait
Wow.
to watch. I love watching the games this weekend. This is
I'm looking forward
This
to it,
is
yeah.
my favorite weekend usually of the of the playoffs.
Oh, mine's actually wild card weekend.
You like wild card
Yeah, I
weekend.
love
like
wild card
this.
weekend.
I like divisional playoff weekend, and it's but everybody has their little favorites and everything like that. But asking the question of who's going to go, I would ask you. I want to make a little list. Could we come up with a list of people that we think will not be entering the building on the first day of training camp next year? That are currently Eagles. That will not, Pat, is there a name you could suggest that will not be entering the building the first day of training camp next year?
I don't think James Bradbury's back.
Okay, so you think Bradbury's gone?
I think
June 1st cut?
Whoa, just one.
Yeah, June 1st.
Yeah.
We had I forget it was a tweeter, caller, YouTuber pointed out the June 1st dead cap money isn't too bad. I think he's gone.
I do not think I would agree that I do not think Bradbury will be part of this team next year. Bob, do we have if we don't have a mutual agreement on all three, I'm not putting them on the list.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a name you'd like to suggest for us?
Yeah, I don't think Jason Kelsey's coming
Well,
back.
we know that one.
I don't think that See, you know what? Brandon Graham's words over the last couple of days make me feel like he wants to come back and he'll do it for pretty much nothing.
Right. That's the way it seems to me.
Yeah, so he's not a guy I'm going to go to, but I do not think that Rashad Penny will be back.
Wait,
How about that?
Honestly, like if you look at the list of Eagles that their contract is up, and Schefter actually had
it's
it.
a big list.
It's a big list, and it's a gross list. It is disgusting.
Like you don't care about the majority of the players,
I don't
right?
give a rat's ass about him. It's like when you're rattling off a list of guys, and by the way, my name, the guy that I chose was under contract. But when you're rattling off a list of free agents and soon-to-be free agents, and you're going, yeah, I don't need them. I mean, all right, so these are the big ones. I pulled it up. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, DeAndre Swift. Okay, those three I'll take back in a heartbeat. The other ones, Quez Watkins,
Right.
Sua Opeta, Nicholas Morrow, Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard, Bradley Roby, Zacchaeus, Boston Scott, Marcus Mariota, Julio Jones, Braden Mon. Like I'll take Braden Mon back,
I'll take Zacchaeus back.
but like I'm good on.
See, I
You
take
can find
Zacchaeus back
anywhere.
because my name is Quez Watkins. Not back. Do we have a trifecta of agreement on that or not?
Yeah, Quez Watkins can kick rocks.
That we think he's going to
Yeah.
be gone.
Well, you got to look. I mean, so what are you saying? You're going to draft a wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm letting Zacchaeus step up into that role of the next guy, and I'm saying that you are drafting somebody, or somewhere along the line you're drafting a wide receiver, whether it's like third round, fourth round, whatever.
Okay, I'll agree with you on Watkins.
Okay.
Yeah, especially the way they used him down towards the end of the season. I'll agree with you on that.
I want to hear what Martin has to say. Martin, you have a question for Exit Interview Day. Good morning.
How you doing?
We're doing all right, Martin, but it's been better.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, good morning, gentlemen. John, God bless. Glad you're doing well.
Thank you, buddy.
I hear you. No worries. So I think it's a matter of perspective, right? My question would be for Jeffrey Lurie. I want to know where you're going to put your thumb, because I've been listening all year, right? And I think that the fan base, us that have grown with this team and had our hearts broken over the years so many times, we knew at 6-1, at 7-1, 8-1 that something wasn't right. And I was thinking back to the conversation you guys were having earlier about the defensive line. I've said this to people my entire life. You obviously have to be very talented to get into the NFL, right? But when you get that opportunity where a coach or an organization uses your talents to the best of your ability and has a scheme and a defense or an offense that really showcases your talents, those are the guys that become superstars. How many times have you seen a superstar leave a team? We saw it with Andy Reid all the time, right? Our best players would go chase money and go somewhere else. You'd never hear their name again because Andy showcased their talents. He used them to the best of their abilities.
So what's your question for Jeff Lurie, though? But what's your question for Jeff Lurie?
Where are you going to put your thumb? Because everyone's speculating, it's the players, they didn't play. To me, I want to know what he's thinking. To me, it's the coaches, because at the end of the day, the coaches didn't get the best out of their players, and that's on them. If my team doesn't do well and I tell my boss, they're not playing up to their abilities, my boss is going to fire me. So I want to know from Jeff, I don't want to hear that he's going to become Al Davis and he's going to become a daily operations guy and he's going to have his nose in everything. Once again, showcase your talents, Jeff. That's not your talent either.
All right. I like that, Martin. I like the mindset. The accountability thing is huge. But I got to tell you, early on, it's just early, and you can join us at 610-632-0975. It seems like every single thing comes around to either being asked directly of Howie or peripherally to Howie. And you always say it's an off-season thing for you, Bob. You've told us, you tend to think of, questions about the general manager and everything like that. They're for the off-season. And it seems very, at least from our listening audience, yesterday and today, there are a lot of questions for Howie Roseman.
Oh, yeah, and now's the time. It's the offseason. As of like 11:30 Monday night,
yes.
The questions can go to Howie. Look, he puts the team in place, the roster together, boom. Here it is. This is what you have to work with this season. That happens back in September. Now you have to live with that all the way through January or February if you're lucky. There's really not much more. You saw the little side things that they did, bringing in linebackers and safeties and all that. But those are just secondary guys. The questions now start for Howie. Yeah, and now is the time. Like, all right, what are you going to do about this linebacking position? What do you think of the safeties and corners? Where are you going with this offensive line now that Jason Kelce has retired? All those questions now are for Howie, that in season doesn't really matter. But now is the time.
It's my biggest fear right now. And, Pat, I would imagine everybody's got one or two is wondering where this Eagles team's going, is the first domino has fallen on the turnover of the offensive line. And last year, we lost Sayamalu, who goes to Pittsburgh. But I don't think they really got exploited on that loss at all this year to any level that it would concern me.
I mean, Cam Jurgens stepped in, and he was fine, but he was also injured a lot. I mean, he got injured, I think, 3 different times, and he capped it off with a horrible game on Monday. So, he was okay, but they also had to go to other guys like Sua Opeta a few times, and I didn't feel like there was that much of a drop-off too often when it comes to that position. But now you're going to move Cam Jurgens to center.
And Cam Jurgens, it's weird that in Jason Kelce's last game, Cam Jurgens really did stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. Now, do they have faith in Tyler Steen? I mean, they drafted him in the 3rd round. That's pretty high. But they also had him inactive for quite a bit, including the last stretch of games there, including a game that you probably needed him active,
Sure.
the Giants game, that you thought you were going to pull vets, and the genius coaching staff decided, no, we'll be all right. And then they were put in a situation where Jason Kelce almost had to go back into the game. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the guard position. I do think that one of the organizational philosophies they probably have is they can plug in a guard. They prepare for that position. Center's a little bit difficult, but guards, they have a decent history of kind of plugging in there. Brandon Brooks was probably the last like high profile guard that they went out and signed. So
from Houston, right?
Yeah, from the Texans. So I think they'll be okay, but it's such a drop off. Like you're going from a future Hall of Famer who was still playing at an all pro level to we don't know what Cam Jurgens is going to be.
By the way, I so admire that in even though I'm sort of pissed that he's leaving. The governor of Delco, Jason Kelce, that he leaves on top of the mountain. I think that's an incredible statement to his career also, that, yeah, I'm leaving on my own terms. I'm leaving when I'm the best at my craft or one of the best at my craft. That to me is very admirable. And it tells me that his priorities are in the right place as a person, because he's making a choice where he doesn't have to leave. He could go grab another payday. He could demand a 2-year contract from somebody and somebody would give it to him.
Sure.
And he's made the choice.
Yeah, he seems on top of knowing his body, on top of knowing, we see the family style he has and the good personality and all that. Yeah, he left on his own terms. That's a real nice luxury to have.
It is.
And he was able to do it. He's comfortable with it. You saw the emotion that he had on the sidelines. And then, now Twitter's coming out with him hugging his family after the game, after they were all done and getting ready to get on the bus, I guess. He did it his way, and good for him. I wonder, do we get another one of these in a little bit? Does Brandon Graham sit back and watch Jason Kelce do his thing for a little bit and then say, yeah, by the way, guys, I'm out too? Because Brandon Graham, we all love him and all. Do you really need a spot for him on this team next year? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think I jumped in here. I think you do. I think Brandon Graham is way fresher than Jason Kelce, because Brandon Graham's in a rotation. He's only playing, 30, 40 snaps a game. Jason Kelce's playing every. Yeah, I mean, his snap count was down. But I think Brandon Graham, for that room, and I know it's ironic because we're talking about a fractured locker room, it seems like, but for that room, I feel like having a Brandon Graham there is so important. Having a guy that's always smiling, positive, coming in, joking around, laughing. If they want to give him the Hugh Douglas treatment from 2004 when they kind of brought him in and he was just like a vet in the locker room to keep things loose, I'm fine with that. I don't think Brandon Graham is going to break the bank. Jason Kelce got paid $20 million last year, and he earned every bit of it. But Brandon Graham, I don't see him breaking the bank to come back as a rotational defensive end.
Whatever happened to that stud, Hugh Douglas?
I don't know. I think he got out of I think he got out of the industry.
Investment banking now or something?
I think he's living in Wyoming.
Selling insurance or something, because he was a stud.
I think he owns an alpaca farm.
I could just
shears alpaca wool.
I could just see Big Hugh with the alpacas. Get the hell over here, alpaca! Oh man, that's awesome. Hey, 610-632-0975. If you want to get in with us here on the John Kincade Show, it is a. I just sense that what is it, the stages of mourning, that the city's going through it. As a fan base, we go through it. But now, Pat says, he needs a week. So, like, this weekend, he needs sort of like that cleanse from having to watch football. I will be right back on the couch watching this weekend. And I do know this. Pat's smarter than I am, because I know it will piss me off. Really? I know it. Yes, it's going to piss me off going, man, we could have been there. When the game that I will least like watching is Tampa Bay with Detroit. Because I'll be saying to myself,
I least like watching it because I think Tampa Bay sucks.
No, but that's it. That's the idea. I'll be like, are you kidding me? We didn't get to this game. We didn't manage to somehow get to this game. That's going to infuriate me.
That surprised you that they didn't get to that game the way they played over the last. Like, I think my feelings or whatever were just washed away when I watched that performance over the last 7 weeks.
Well, you know that I got suckered in on Monday night. We talked about it yesterday. I believed, yeah. I know it's been really, really crappy, but wait till you see what they come out with on Monday night. They'll do enough to win. Pat and I both said, it's going to be a win. It's going to be an ugly win. But I almost arrogantly just assumed, they're gonna find a way. Come on, they're not going to lose to Tampa. And I think that's the biggest smack in the face as you watch this, as this offseason gets rolling.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
So, Pat, your hurtness over the Eagles won't allow you to watch any football this weekend?
Normally I'm so distraught's not the word because that's ridiculous. I'm so spent at that point, and I've invested so much time into the Eagles that I just need one week break where I just don't have to think about football. And especially this year because the product was not enjoyable. Like it sounds so ass backwards that a playoff team was not enjoyable to watch, but they really weren't. And there wasn't this shining light of hope like there was when we went to Tampa for that playoff game a couple years ago. There wasn't that. You thought things were going to get better. It seems like they've kind of gotten a little bit worse, and now there's questions about the coaching. So, yeah, I need a little bit of a break from the NFL. I probably I'll check in on the games, but I'm not marking off calendars and saying no, we can't go to brunch because X, Y, and Z are playing. If the family wants to do something, I'm not sitting there going like I gotta watch this game. If I miss all of the games, I'm not going to be all that disappointed about it. I need a break.
What about
spent.
What about likability when Jeff Lurie gets asked about it today? If someone asked him, what do you think about the likability factor of your team right now? Like, do you think we went last year, this city was in love with that Eagles team as they were on and most times when there is the joyride, when you get a chance to win a championship, a city will really, really enjoy their team. I got to imagine that they're saying to themselves, this year's team was not nearly as likable. And the vibes around this team were not nearly as positive. And it was even when it was 10-1, as Jeff McClain and others have reported, the most miserable 10-1 team in the history of the NFL. That's a problem.
The most miserable. In what way?
That's how they described it. Guys were not having fun even when it was 10-1. And by the way, that was reported when they were 10-1. That was not reported like after the fact going, well, when they were 10-1, they were miserable. Guys like Jeff McClain talked about it on this radio station that they weren't having fun. They weren't coming to work and enjoying coming to work.
Is that right? I didn't hear that. I don't remember it being a talking point about the players not having fun.
Yes, the most miserable. Pat, that was the quote, I believe, right? The most miserable 10-1
I know Andrew
team.
talked about that. It's the worst. It's the worst 10-1 team that you'll ever see or something like that. I don't remember players labeling it as. I don't remember anybody labeling as the players being miserable. Because that's a big problem. If
Honestly,
players are
I don't
miserable.
remember.
Yeah.
But
that's a huge problem. If you're 10-1 and reporters are saying the team isn't having
coming
fun.
to work. Here it is, Jeff McClain. McClain's source described the Eagles as the, quote, most miserable 10-1 team. That was from December 23rd. It had been back that someone else is referring to that, and it was reported before then. That trouble's been brewing.
December 23rd. Yeah, you're in the middle of the crapper.
But it was before that. Shedding light on the underlying discontent within the team, even during their early success. That is right from Jeff McClain's reporting that they were the most miserable 10-1 team, not enjoying themselves coming to work. I got to get to the bottom of that.
That's how it looked. Like that's not surprising to anybody. I don't think anybody that if you even if you, I don't remember that tweet, comment, article, whatever have you. Right? I don't remember it. But when you initially said it, I went, yeah, no, that tracks. Because they looked miserable. They did not look like they were having fun. I was not having fun. Like, nobody was having fun.
So the bigger question is, what does it speak to, right, Pat? If you're 10-1, if this is, in fact, what they're saying, that at 10-1 the players weren't happy, what does it speak to?
Leadership.
I go directly to coaching.
Culture.
Well,
no,
that's
I think
go to
culture.
coaching.
I go coaching leadership in the same
Yeah.
basket.
All right. If the
Yeah.
leadership comes under, it goes to coaching to me that they didn't believe in their coaching. That we're winning games, but we're not going to be sustainable with this coaching staff. All of this to me comes back to the coaching staff.
You want to get in with us, 610-632-0975. We're in the venting process and I guess the period of mourning, trying to figure out everything that's going to go on, and it's exit interview day for your Philadelphia Eagles. What questions would you have if you had the opportunity to ask? 610-632-0975. John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic. The BetParks app's the only app that I recommend to you. It's absolutely Adam Schefter, 8 o'clock. Will he spill some tea for us? Will he break some news? Who knows? John Kincade Show, 97.5 The Fanatic, our 7 o'clock hour, brought to you by the Bet Parks app, sportsbook and casino in one sleek, easy-to-use app in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Bob, a little bit of bad news. Pat's going to take a brunch, maybe Please Touch Museum, something like that weekend.
Who's to say?
But with the 4 games this weekend, 9-point spread, 9.5-point spread, 6.5-point spread, 3 of the most lopsided spreads for the weekend of championship weekend, of the divisional playoff weekend that we faced in a while. So they're thinking the 2 number 1 seeds are going to coast in Baltimore and San Francisco. It was us last year.
Seems so long ago, doesn't
Eagles big favorites against the Giants. That Saturday night game, it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. Those beatdowns were great. And it's just a different year this year. And it's exit interview day. And we got a lot of people that want to get in at 610-632-0975.
Speaking of Please Touch Museum, Andrew Tyrone and I will be there tonight for the Sixers Gala.
I didn't even know that was the location.
Yes.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, so we'll be on air 7 to 9. Already got word from the Sixers last night that Daryl Morey will be joining us at 7:05.
Who will you be touching other than Daryl Morey?
Well, yeah, we're going to try to grab some players and other people. Josh Harris's wife, Marjorie, is the one that runs this benefit, and we'll probably be getting her on air. But, yeah, we're going to try to pick and grab some players and get them to come over and sit with us and talk for a little bit. So 7 to 9 tonight, we'll be on air from the Please Touch Museum, the 76ers Gala.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
Absolutely
so it'll
great.
be a good time.
Hey, Bob joins us on The Fanatic. Bob, what's going on, brother?
Hey, guys. Just on another note, Sixers game was awesome last night.
Wasn't that fun?
Oh, man, yeah, it kind of a little bit of a healing effect, I'll say that. But what I wanted to talk about was, first off, I think Sirianni absolutely has to go. And here's why I think Belichick would be an absolute perfect fit. D-backs in what he gets out of those guys. If you remember, we had Eric Rowe and we had Patrick Chung. Neither one of them seemed to live up to their potential. Belichick gets them, and they have a long, prosperous career. And I think it goes back to that do your job. There's a lot of dudes that can run really fast, that should be able to hit hard enough to tackle, all that stuff. But under a Belichick coach team, you never see those blown assignments like that. And I think he would be the absolute perfect fit. Howie Roseman gets good D linemen, but like on D-backs, we struggle.
You're telling me that Bill Belichick, after being in charge of the operation, having total control of the operation for 22 seasons of his 24, is going to come here and work under Howie Roseman?
I would think that if he's looking at a couple of variables, okay, number one, if he wants the wins, if he wants to, after Brady, I think if he does look at any of those ego type things, he has a great chance of being able to win a Super Bowl. I think if Morey were to interview him, he'd have to make some room to compromise. We're not talking about Chip Kelly here. We're talking about
Bill Belichick. I got you. I don't thank you, Bobby. I don't think that he is a fit here at all. At all.
I
They
don't
want too
think
much
he's
control.
coming here. Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's coming here, so I haven't even entertained that in my mind. I think he's either in Atlanta or he's in L.A. with the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't see it. Atlanta, by the way, has interviewed not only Bill Belichick, but has also now interviewed Jim Harbaugh. So they've gotten on the interview train. And it's one of the things that I'm thinking about today as these exit interviews are going on. If they are considering making a coaching change, get on your horse. At some point here, get on your horse. You've got to get moving because at some point somebody blinks in the process. Somebody will say, you know what? Well, I haven't heard from them and this offer's on the table. And also too, right now, if I'm with Belichick and Harbaugh, two of the bells at the ball, I don't think Belichick would be even in the mix here. I'm not sure Harbaugh would be either. I don't think Jim Harbaugh is coming into an organization and saying, "Oh yeah, my desires and my ambitions will be at the mercy of Howie Roseman." I don't believe it. He's got hand to be able to have a better situation than that.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's not their MO, right? Their MO
No.
is to hire somebody that they can, for lack of a better term, control, be underneath of them. No, do you have in Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh, you have two guys that are probably going to want to have heavy hands in running the organization.
And unless Jeffrey Lurie was looking to move on from Howie, and I don't believe that's happening at all. So, hey, Max joins us on the Fanatic. Max, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Just one of those exit interview questions.
Yes.
I feel like people over the 7-week rut were saying they got no answer to the blitz, no answer to the blitz. I think they did because Jalen was able to get the ball out pretty quickly. The problem is there were those deep routes as opposed to over the middle. I just want to know who thought of that. Was it like an analytics thing? Did someone think they were reinventing the wheel? Because it never works, but Jalen always got the pass off aside from like that safety 2 nights ago. I just want to know what was happening there.
So
I think they got a half point for seeing the blitz. I don't think they were blocked every time.
So, Max, let me ask you something. Does that mean you are, if you are pleased with the answers, you want another year of Jalen, Nick, and Brian Johnson? You see, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So you could be convinced that would work.
I can, because I did for week getting the ball out every time consistently. Just why the downfield?
Okay. I mean, thanks, Maxie. Appreciate it. I'm not ready to sign up for that dance again. I am out on the Brian Johnson train. I do not have confidence that his rudimentary design is good enough to compete. Dan Orlovsky's 2 videos that he put up in the last 3 weeks literally gut that fish and say, this is high schoolish. This is too simplistic. And someone's going to say, well, no, that's Nick Sirianni's idea. Like, that's what Nick wants to do. If you believe that, then you believe that they never told us anything like that until late November. Never till late November can you show me where they said, well, this is Nick's offense, and all Brian Johnson's doing is calling the plays. No one can show me that before November. Didn't say it when he was hired. Didn't say it during training camp. Didn't say it during the beginning of the year. So I don't believe that to be the case. I believe they were covering for him.
Yeah, I even go X's and O's and how they ran this and didn't run that. That goes below something else for me, and that's that this team, in my opinion, checked out on the coaches. So I don't care if they're X's and O's, look what he did here and he didn't do that there. The players appeared to me that they did not want to play for this coaching staff. And whether it was coordinators, whether they come out and say, Sirianni was okay, but we had no idea they had no idea where to be.
No, they did not.
It was laughable. And Troy Aikman pretty much was doing that. It was laughable where the defense was, or I should say wasn't, when Tampa Bay was running their offense. They weren't there. And then, you go to the offensive side of the ball, they scored 9 points. I mean, does anything more need to be said?
It was brought up yesterday on Andrew's show. I think one caller had said something along the lines of, if Devontae Smith doesn't catch that highly contested ball for the long pass, they score 3.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that bad.
It was that bad. And that team just appeared to move on from the coaching staff to me a few games ago, and maybe as far back as after San Francisco. I don't know, but I really started questioning it not many games after that they didn't appear to be believing in what they were being taught or told.
It's exit interview day. If you want to get in with us and maybe have a question that you would like to add to the exit interview category that may be asked, but one question and to one specific person that you're asking the question. Jeff joins us. Jeff, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good to hear from you.
So my exit interview question, I guess, is for Nick / the entire coaching staff, and it's kind of, I guess, it's blitz related from Monday night, but it's kind of a microcosm of the entire season with the insistence to do the wide receiver bubble screens and getting away from the run and all that stuff. But so I guess it's a 3-parter, and I don't know which answer is worse.
Okay.
Did you know the blitz was coming and you didn't care and you just didn't adjust? Did you know the blitz was coming and you didn't know how to adjust? Or did you just not recognize it at all? And I don't know which of those three answers is honestly the one that's going to make me feel the worst or best about the staff.
They're never going to give you the third answer because that would be
You're right.
immediately they'd be like, Pat, it'd be like Pat Egan. I'm just in there handing people cardboard boxes, which he's doing on the way in.
I would love to. Is that an option today? I'll head down there.
Maybe if we could give him some truth serum when we get the actual answer.
Oh, I'd love that.
No,
I would love it.
And I would even expand on Jeff's question. Those are great questions, Jeff. They really are. I would expand to say, why was the obvious not obvious to you guys?
100%.
Meaning, so what you said about the blitz, all of those questions that you said about the blitz, put that under the umbrella. How about, wasn't it obvious to you that the bubble screen never worked this year? Why did you keep doing it? Wasn't it obvious to you that slant patterns worked very well for this team? Why did you rarely run them? All of those things are legitimate questions, right, Jeff? Why was the obvious not obvious to this coaching staff?
Why did you make Hassan Reddick be a drop into coverage guy for the last 6 weeks of the season and totally neutralize him?
Exactly. Why is the obvious thing that you're good at defensively, why wasn't it obvious to you that he should be rushing the passer?
Hey, Jeff, do you have a resume? You may want to drop it off at NovaCare. Thanks.
Maybe I will.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate him joining us. Bob, you were talking about yesterday is that the Jalen Hurts story is interesting, and it's one of the things you have in your notes, that there is a belief about how we progress with Jalen Hurts. What does he need? How do we work with this? And I want to know if it's a problem.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we did see a lot of the talk. A lot of the talk was Jalen Hurts just isn't good enough. And last year was an anomaly. And he is what he is, a second-round quarterback. Okay, I have to get past that. Like, if I'm a fan of the team, a coach, whatever, you have to get past. They signed this guy, and you can say, oh, they overpaid. I can't believe they paid him $250 million. Okay, but they did. And so that's their belief. Isn't it okay to say he can be good if he gets the right coaching? That I don't find that as a bad thing.
I don't either.
Like just because he was paid that money, and he did show last year that he can be a top quarterback in this league, yeah, maybe the best you get out of him is from good coaching. I don't mind that. So, like, that being a talking point can't be a wave of the hand. Like, I still think Jalen Hurts can be a good quarterback in this league, but I also do believe that he needs better coaching than he got this year.
When Brian Johnson was his quarterback coach, were you pleased?
I was pleased last year with Jalen Hurts, yeah.
So someone else designing the offense, but Brian Johnson being the guy who worked directly with Hurts. That was supposedly a marriage made in heaven. It didn't work out this year with him being elevated, and I don't consider that a slight on Jalen Hurts. Like,
no,
I think people do,
that's
though.
my point.
But I think people do. I think there are people who do. It's like, oh, man, you're blaming Jalen? Or you think Jalen needs to be coached up? His decision-making this year, honestly, at times was like a drunken sailor. And to me, that doesn't work. As much as I've slammed on Brian Johnson, so I'm not trying to waffle here because I am absolutely not doing that. But Brian Johnson didn't draw up plays where Jalen Hurts would cough up the football inexplicably, fumbling on just basic handoffs and things like that. That's not on Brian Johnson. That's on Jalen Hurts. And some of the ill-advised throws that cost this team big time aren't on Brian Johnson. They're on Jalen Hurts. Their decision-making. And I think Jalen's decision-making this year was absolutely questionable in many, many games.
Yeah, and does it revert back to coaching? Some of it, yeah, maybe a lot of it. Is there some things he needs to work on? Absolutely, all of that. But I think Jalen Hurts can be fine and very good for this organization, absolutely. I agree with it. But I also do think that he needs really good coaching. And I don't think he got that this year. Play design, play calling, his reads not being good. Okay, that was a question early on in the year. Why didn't it improve?
And it didn't improve.
No, and then that's the job of coaches, is to improve your team throughout the year. Did your player get better throughout the season? I don't know many players we can say that about on this Eagles team.
I can't think of. Man, I really had to struggle to find a defensive player that got better. I feel like everybody took a step back.
Do you think Blankenship took a step back? I know that he's not. I know that he's not.
One.
I mean, like with Reed Blankenship, I know that he's not what you need if you want to be a Super Bowl champion As a rotational guy, Reed Blankenship is damn good.
He's fine. Like to me, Reed Blankenship was a little bit better version of Kaiser White. Like Kaiser White
that's not bad, yeah.
is a serviceable linebacker if you pair him with a really good linebacker. And I think Reed Blankenship would have been fine had he been paired with a C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like, ultimately, the decision to cut off talks with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and bring back Bradbury really, really hurt this team. But at the same time, do I think that's the reason they lost? No. But, you add up all these little issues, and you get what we're talking about now. Instead of talking about a game, we're talking about the offseason.
Hey, Tom joins us over in South Jersey. Tom, good morning. You're on the Fanatic.
Morning. How are you guys?
Good, buddy.
Just wanted to really ask a question. With Brian Johnson, do you think we're being a little overcritical with how he was? Now, I'm not a Brian Johnson truther, but for the past few years, we've been hearing everything about Eric Bieniemy and how he's this great offensive mind. But Brian Johnson sitting here with, 3 head coaching opportunities, and we haven't heard
two.
About Eric Bieniemy?
Is it 3? I don't know that's changed.
It might be 2.
I'm suspicious, Tom, that a lot of times one of the things is now with the Rooney Rule and with things that guys get interviews and they get these propped up interviews where they're not really being given a chance to get a job, and they're being brought in to just, you interview new assistants, you interview young assistants to check a box. I'm hoping that's not the case with Brian Johnson, because every candidate would deserve better than that. I don't know, but Eric Bieniemy's story is well documented. He's not. He has a lot of organizations would shy away from things that you would have to answer about his past. I don't know that that's fair. I don't know that that's fair when he's had a successful career as an offensive coordinator and he's been a model citizen. I don't think that's. I don't think it's fair. I don't want to be. I don't want to be judged on 20 years old when you were 20. Do you, Tom?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I certainly don't want that.
Yeah, but I mean, Washington hasn't been anything good. But I mean, for what he had to deal with offensively, I'd say they were rather successful.
Oh, I think they were.
They were able to move the ball.
Sam Howell had an amazing year. Didn't he lead the NFC in passing? I mean, it was so. I mean, that's a really, really good job. I'd love to have Eric Bieniemy here. I would drive down, Bob. I would drive down and offer to pack up his office, put it in the car, drive it up.
Oh yeah, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Absolutely, I would, and it would also allow me, if that's, how do I phrase this? If you are hell bent on keeping Nick Sirianni as your head coach, that is exactly what I have to do. Like if I were Jeffrey Lurie and I went to Howie Roseman and said, "What do you think? What do you think about what should we do about Nick?" And Howie comes back and says, I think we got to keep him. Did take us to the Super Bowl last year. I know Pat Optics isn't something that they really do care about, but and if Howie labels it out, if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, I say, okay, you can keep him, but you better damn go get me Eric Bieniemy, and you better go get me a really good defensive coordinator, because otherwise, no, you're not getting your wish.
Pat, can you imagine?
I wonder if that would be a way it would play out.
Can you imagine if you're Nick Sirianni? It's like, yeah, Nick, you get to keep your job, but we're bringing in Eric Bieniemy. So keep your hands off the offense. Is that what you'd be saying?
Yeah.
Be an overseer like you were 2 years ago.
That's the crazy part, though. It's like he's an offensive-minded head coach, or he's supposed to be. So at that point, it's like, well, don't touch the defense because, we can bring in better people with that. The offense, hey, don't do me a favor. Don't touch that either.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird.
So
if I bring in Eric Bieniemy, I want Nick Sirianni, Pat. So I actually want to put boxes up against the door so he can't get in. I want to,
and that's crazy. Like, that's a waste of money to me. Everybody that works for a large company right now, you can probably write a list of all the ways that company just wastes money. The employees know, and that's what the Eagles would be doing. They'd just be wasting salary. Millions of dollars on a guy to put stickers on his little hat, and get really, really annoyed and say shoot every press conference because he cares so much. Like, what? Okay, then at that point, save a couple $1 million and get the rah-rah guy that has the shirt that's way too tight on the sidelines. That can't wait to pick up guys. Like, get him
to pick up guys.
Yeah, like when the guy falls on the sideline, he's there. yeah, pick him up, yeah. That guy.
I
Like,
think Nick's-
hire him for a couple $100,000 and put him in the role.
Well, that does. Why does that annoy me so much?
It annoys me
Does
too.
it annoys so many people.
But this season has done that, where every little thing about this season, everything about those guys.
I
annoys me.
guess, yeah. I guess you're right.
I think Nick Sirianni's got to be nervous today because of the history of the Eagles organization that they've cut bait on people. But then when I remember he's got $7 million due for next year, he's not sweating. He's made $21 million as the coach of the Eagles before, just in salary alone.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
And he's got
not-
7 more coming. He's not worried about today. He's walking in there going, might happen.
If I was a coach,
I way doubt that. These guys live to be this. He wanted his whole life to be an NFL coach. I hear you with money and all that stuff, but I've been around guys, and you have too, that make millions upon millions. This is their life. He wants to be a head football coach. Yeah, what's he going to go home and count his money and feel good that he just got fired?
Yeah.
No.
I would.
But yeah, you would, because you don't have that kind of ambition. Like, this guy wanted to be. I'm just saying. It's true. Like, these guys have lived their lives to be in the position they're in. They didn't do it for the money or whatever. The money is a side, aspect of it. But no, you guys are nuts if you think Nick Sirianni doesn't care if he gets fired.
Wait a minute. I haven't finished drawing the chalk body outline around
seriously.
Pat.
I mean, this update's going to
It's
suck
just
because
not
I lack
true.
ambition.
But it's not.
I just
just
lack the
real.
ambition
Saying
to
these
be
guys
good.
don't care about if they get fired or not because they have money. No, that's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard.
Not that they don't care, but
He said he's going to walk in and be like,
if you're stressing,
you just said I don't care.
No, but if you're stressing, if he's stressing going in there when you know you are covered for the rest of your life, yeah, you're pissed that you're losing a job that you want, but you know you've made generational wealth that means you don't have to ever even work again if you didn't want to. There's a difference.
There's a difference between stressing about that and stressing if me, you, or John lose a job. I mean, I remember hearing a guy that worked at our station in our industry, and he talked about the best time in his life was when he got fired because he had a guaranteed contract and he can go off on a beach somewhere and chill. Like, we can sit here and be, the Harry Hardo act, but it makes it easier when you go, yeah, okay, pride-wise, I don't want to get fired, but
yeah, my
if I
life's
want to,
okay.
I can take a couple of years off and just kick back. I mean, Doug Peterson was able to take a year off.
I don't know. You guys just don't have the competitive nature that these guys
No.
do.
I'm
telling you.
going to correct you. I don't have the ambition.
Yeah, well, that either.
The ambition.
I'm
I don't have
putting
the drive,
labels
the
on
ambition,
you. Ambition's
the competitive
first, competitive nature second.
The work ethic. You name it, Bob. I don't have it. I just lack it.
I know this is that Pat has a comparison for us. He's going to compare Brian Johnson to another individual who's had some great success in the NFL. Could there be a parallel? We'll find out. John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Oh, it's me. I'm sorry.
You lack the ambition.
Where's your ambition to just do the things the right way? Seriously.
I'm reading text.
Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
Adam Schefter is here, top of the hour. What does he know about exit interview day? Does he know who already is going to be handed a cardboard box? We'll ask the questions. We'll see if we get the answers coming up in just a few moments. Brought to you by our friends at Landis Block and Concrete. We appreciate Landis Block for being a part of that. Every single week, go visit landisbc.com.
You know, I was talking to Pat about this during the break. Like, could the Sixers' schedule and what happened last night have come at an absolute better time?
It's perfect.
You have the defending NBA champion coming in. You have in Jokic, a guy that Embiid is in a tussle with for the best player in the league for the last few years. Just a great game. A game that in the first half is just up and down. It's unrealistic. 78-78 at halftime. And you're watching this, and it's just absolute joy and a great game beside it. And then your leader, Joel Embiid, does what he has to do. And you get a 3 for 90 last night out of the Sixers.
Yes.
Embiid, Harrison, Maxey combined for 90 points. My magical 3 for 90. I just thought, I'm watching it, and I was thinking to myself, for people like Pat, who that Eagles loss, it drained you in all aspects of life. Like, for people like that, hopefully they tuned into the Sixers last night and got not only a reprieve, but man, I really do have something to look forward to.
Thank you for being concerned about me. I did.
Well,
I tuned in and I enjoyed myself.
My daughter, I told Bob Sunday night she had Monday night. I mean, she was choked up and pissed off and upset about her Eagles. And then last night she went down to the game against Denver and she loved it. Loved it. Changed her entire mood.
Yeah, they are fun to watch. It's funny. Like last night, I told you I was out shoveling all day yesterday, helping my neighbors and all. So last night I decided I'm just going to build a fire.
That's a lot of ambition on your part.
I love it. I'm a very ambitious person.
Yes.
So I'm watching the game, and I got a daily planner for Christmas. One of my kids gave me. So I started filling it out, and I put all the Sixers games in there, and like I realized as I'm watching the game and I'm filling this out how much I just enjoy watching.
You're looking forward to it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's. If you're not on board yet, if you're one of the, I'll wait until the playoffs, you're missing something fun right now. So it's a good cure for what ails you, Pat.
As amazing as yesterday's game was, just from a basketball standpoint, to watch those two guys go at it, I have to say that broadcast was brutal. Like Stan Van Gundy was the most uninformed. Yeah, his praise of Jokic, which deserved. Like Jokic is incredible. He's a top 3 guy in the league, but it was absurd. It's everybody else's fault, and they ran Brett Brown out of town. They ran Ben Simmons out of town.
Yeah,
he's so.
Look, I apologize to whoever was the play-by-play guy. I forget his name. But that guy did a really good job of reminding at one point Van Gundy's bringing up, you look at his Embiid's points in the playoffs, his rebounds in the playoffs, and this in the playoffs, everything's down, and he never shows up. And the guy was like, well, yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, staying healthy.
Yeah,
just the most uninformed broadcast.
It was awful, and I was texting with the big man, just saying, I don't know what kind of prep Stan Van Gundy does for a broadcast.
None,
but
apparently.
It's not good enough.
It's not.
It's not good.
When you say he ran Ben Simmons out of town,
it's ridiculous. But here's the thing is, I know the team at TNT pretty well. I know a lot of people that are part of it and everything. They've got a great team of people to be able to assist any one of their broadcasters with prep, with anything like that if they need it. He needs to take advantage of it. Either he's not reading it or he's not doing his homework. Because that was a terrible, Pat. That is not a, this broadcaster doesn't like us thing. You're absolutely right. That was terrible last night.
No, I mean, normally I'm pretty good with the unbiased broadcasts and all that, and I'm pretty cognizant of when it's just simply an unbiased opinion, and it's an opinion that I don't necessarily like because it's going against my team, but it's unbiased. Last night, when you start pointing out they ran Brett Brown out of town, and then they ran Ben Simmons out of town.
It's just dumb.
Yeah, you're just uninformed, and then you're ripping Embiid's playoff performance, You're not bringing up the fact, I texted Bob at one point and I said, I want to break Stan Van Gundy's face, and while he's writhing on the ground in pain, go, all right, I need a big broadcast from you tomorrow. Like, Embiid's showing up with a broken face, and you're wondering why his rebounds and points are down. Like, dude, I don't know. Let's try to figure this out together.
He can believe that. He can believe whatever he wants about Joel Embiid, but to not bring those things up as part of the discussion.
And that's my point.
That's really dumb.
Yeah, it's a discussion we have a lot. Sorry, Pat. Fine line between excuses and just
reasons.
reality.
Yes.
You know, the reality is, okay, he's hurt every time they proceed in the playoffs.
Yep.
And I really do have it in the back of my mind. Do teams shoot for it now?
Do teams shoot for what?
Trying to hurt Embiid in the first round.
I don't think
really
Siakam did necessarily, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's saying I got to go after his knee or something like that. But I'm not kidding when I say I think it's in people's mind of like, look, let's go after him extra hard and see what happens.
We, Pat, I don't want to I'm not going to shortchange your thing that I teased, but Pat is an interesting one. We'll get to it after Adam Schefter, where a comparison between Brian Johnson and another name in the NFL, and I think it is very eye-opening. I will say this with everybody walking into the NovaCare facility today for the potentially like the last time. I couldn't agree with you more, Pat, that the list of guys that they say, here are the contracts that are up. I hardly raised an eyebrow, like caring at all about almost any of them. And I'm not trying to be dismissive or do shock jock stuff.
No, I mean,
but the names that I worry about, they're there. They're options to be here next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, we rattled off the list there, and the first three I thought, okay, I'll take back, but two of those are aging vets who Fletcher Cox had a really good season. Brandon Graham, I mean, Bob laid it out. Like, saw your playing time dip. Would it necessarily be the worst thing in the world if they let Brandon Graham go? No, I don't think it would kill the on-the-field product. I think it would hurt morale in the locker room, and I don't think that there's a shot in hell he plays for another football team. But when you look at a whole list of, let's say, 15 guys, and it's running back, probably the most, plug-and-play position right now in football, and then two vets. Yeah, they're not losing a lot this year in terms of talent if they let everybody go, which they won't. And
there's a lot of guys that were holding up roster spots in that last game on Monday night, Bob, that you're not going to miss. You're not going to miss Julio Jones not being here is not going to miss. You're not going to I'm telling you this. By the way, the name on my list is please goodbye is Byard. Byard, to me, was a huge disappointment. He wanted I heard about it, what kind of a physical player he was. He wasn't physical at all.
I heard ball hawk. I mean, I can't blame Kevin. I'm putting an asterisk pretty much with everybody on the defense besides Bradbury. Bradbury was getting cooked left and right.
Oh, my gosh.
But everybody on the defense, I'm putting an asterisk beside their performance this season, because to deal with what they dealt with regards to Desai and then Patricia coming in, and, I don't think they were starting with a full deck. I think they were put behind the eight ball. And when Byard comes in and he's got to learn a new system, and then shortly after he gets here, he has to learn a third system in the same year. That's
I got
tough.
it. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. As far as it is, he was behind the eight ball. He was absolutely behind the eight ball.
Yeah,
but he didn't play with like this ferocious, he's getting after everybody.
It's hard to get after everybody when you're not near anybody. It's what I talked about before. They say, our identity, we're going to be aggressive again. You can't be aggressive when you don't know where you're going to be.
For around a month and a half, we've been wondering what the hell's going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I can only imagine from a league level what it looks like and what it sounds like today. Let's go to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business, get you ready for what's next. And our friends at Landis Block and Concrete again. Jared and his entire team bringing you Adam Schefter with us at landisbc.com. Adam, to say that there is a pile of rubble that we're sort of searching through on exit interview morning is an understatement. This city is still a little bit in shock. How are you doing this morning, and what are you hearing out of NovaCare? You got to be hearing something about what potentially could be going on this week.
Well, I just think that right now the entire league seems to be in a holding pattern, waiting to see what happens in Dallas and waiting to see what happens in Philadelphia and waiting to see what the fallout of this weekend's playoff losses will be. I think, look, we talked about it last week on this show. This team has been in a downward spiral ever since the 49ers game. For whatever reason, they never recovered. They never improved. They never got better and never were able to turn it around to where finally it all ended a Monday night in a game that was representative of everything that had gone wrong in the previous 5, 6, 7 weeks. They couldn't cover on defense. They couldn't generate offense, and they couldn't get it done. And today is the day where the players check out. There's exit meetings with Nick Sirianni. At some point in time, you'd imagine that the Eagles owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and Nick Sirianni will meet. And I think that, honestly, I'd love to give you an answer, but Jeffrey Lurie is the man that holds all answers. And if everything is going to stay the same with head coach, then that's up to the owner to say. And if it's not, it's up to the owner to say. It's his decision, and we know that the owner, at times in the past, has been impatient, rightfully so. It's his team, gets to do what he wants, and they've had a tremendous organization and tremendous results.
Will you
see
be?
what he decides. Yeah.
Will you be shocked at all if Nick Sirianni is shown the door?
I think you're always surprised because it would go against what people within the organization had said, and it would validate all the outside speculation where all kinds of people are questioning, wondering, speculating on the head coach's future, and everybody's saying it's fine. There's nothing to see here. 3 straight playoff appearances. You've done a great job. Okay. But I think we've all seen in this world that we live in, this football universe, that these things just happen. They just do. And you may think it's possible, but it doesn't diminish the shock of it if it ever does happen. Like, we heard about the idea that Mike Vrabel could be in trouble in Tennessee. And then when he's shocked, it doesn't mean you're any less surprised when it comes down. When Pete Carroll gets dismissed in Seattle, there's been talk every year that he and John Schneider and Jody Allen, the team's owner, would have to sit down and discuss the team's issues. And when he is essentially relieved of his duties, that doesn't make it any less shocking. So I guess I'm operating under the idea that my guess is that he'll be back, but I also recognize that anything's possible and that Jeffrey Lurie could decide to do anything here today, tomorrow, whenever he makes his decision.
Schefter, when you talk about this Eagles team, and you said it, that they couldn't get it done offensively, they couldn't get it done defensively, you know the talent that this team has or doesn't have. If I would have said that statement to you before this downfall happened, that they weren't getting it done in those areas, would you directly look at the players or do you directly look at the coaches?
Oh, I think it's collective. To me, it sounds like, and you guys are dealing with this every single day, every morning for multiple hours. It sounds like people feel like it's the coaches, correct?
Yes, more than the players.
Yeah. And here's the deal. To me, they complement one another or don't complement one another. And so if and when the coaching isn't good, then all of a sudden, some of the players look like they're older and not as productive. And when the coaching is better, then some of these players look great. Like if we talked about the tone and atmosphere surrounding this team a year ago, we couldn't have been higher about everybody around there. And we felt like the coaching was good. Now it feels like, well, maybe the coaching wasn't good and the players weren't as good as we thought. They just kind of go hand in hand to me. And I guess, we try to pinpoint one over the other, but I just think when it goes wrong, it all goes wrong. Players aren't playing as well. The momentum and juice are gone. It gets reflected in a player's performance, but maybe that's the coaches. And so you try to pinpoint who it is and what's the reason, when the truth of the matter is it's really the responsibility of everybody, and everybody plays a role in all of that.
Adam Schefter joins us, John Kincade Show, 97.5, The Fanatic. Do you believe that Brian Johnson will return? He's getting head coaching interviews. And if he does leave, do you think that Nick Sirianni's making that call? Do you think Howie Roseman's making that call? And how heavy-handed is the upper brass on deciding Nick Sirianni's coordinators?
You know, here's the thing. There is so much that they have to sift through. You know, this team this morning is in rubble. And I think we have to figure out first and foremost what Jeffrey Lurie thinks. And is Jeffrey Lurie of the mind to bring back Nick Sirianni? If he is, okay, then you go on to the next thing. So it's hard to go into the secondary decisions, as important as they are, until we know what the other decisions are. Because if Jeffrey decides to make major changes, then there are going to be major changes throughout. So it becomes a moot point. So it's hard to talk about, you know, how the coordinator decisions are going to be made. Look, here's the thing. I think we all know that there's going to be significant changes on the defensive side of football. Zero secret, zero breaking news there, right? They're going to address that again. I think we all can look at what we saw this year, see what unfolded, and expect that there's going to be defensive changes, period. The offensive side of the football, to me, becomes a little bit more complicated because I do think that Brian Johnson is a widely respected figure, and it could have just been that there were things he had to learn in his first year, and you have to see how the players feel and how the owner feels and how the front office feels and the coaches feel, depending on the coach. There's just so many variables to it that even though we're, 36 hours past the event, it takes time to just process these things. You just don't make these decisions the next day. I need more information. We need to see how more of this organization will or will not be before you can begin to delve into the secondary decisions, in my mind.
So on that primary decision, Shefty, Team Howie, Team Lurie, they have any hesitancy, do you think, in firing a head coach because this would be an unprecedented, third or fourth time that a GM and a owner have done this together?
You know, here's what I would say to that. It's the world that we're living in today, in any industry, particularly sports, particularly football, particularly a team as popular as the Eagles, is under more scrutiny than ever before. And by the way, when it's going your way, like it was last year, it couldn't be any more glorious or better. And when it's not, these are all the questions that are introduced. And there are going to be some hard conversations that are held at the NovaCare complex today, yesterday, tomorrow, whenever it may be. And this is the time for those individuals to make their money and set the future course of this franchise with whatever decisions they decide to make. I just think that people have been less patient than ever before. We knew this was going to be a tumultuous year across the National Football League. We've already seen it play out. We're still waiting to see how it will play out. And ultimately, like I said, it's going to be up to Jeffrey to decide what he thinks is best for his organization. And we'll see what he decides.
I will tell you, Adam, even from your own network, and I thought the reporting, the analysis, Troy Aikman's job the other night that he did of painting the problems with the Eagles during that broadcast, I thought was as exceptional as I'd ever heard. But the thing is, when I think of a guy like Jeffrey, when I think of Jeffrey Lurie, and I think of what he's thinking today, that's also very damning. That looking at it all and saying, who's to blame? I would imagine it's hard to oversee one of the biggest collapses in the history of the NFL for a 10-1 team to go to 11-7. To me, that would be hard to get answers for. And I want to know what league-wide perception of it. I mean, it seemed like a lot of people were enjoying the Eagles struggling a bit across the country. They were enjoying it, just like we always enjoy Dallas struggling the way they did.
Well, but before we get to, I'm just curious, because I didn't get to hear the broadcast because I'm in the stadium. What were the takeaways of what Troy said about the Eagles team that so impressed you, John.
He did not understand at all, and he was showing you examples of, like, there were times he goes, I don't know what this play design is. This doesn't make sense to me. Why are they doing this? Why do they have two wide receivers within 5 yards of each other? He kept pointing out such a damning attack on the offensive game plan that I would find it very hard to believe that I don't understand who's got the control of it. Is it Brian Johnson's offense? Is it Nick Sirianni's offense? Is it Brian Johnson's play calling or Nick Sirianni's? Because it was terrible. And Troy Aikman, I think, could have gotten somebody fired the other night. How objective, and it was objective. He was showing the facts and talking about it and being very, very critical of the whole effort of the team, too, on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, well, that's his job, and he does a great job. And so when things like that come up, and those questions that you're asking, why are there two receivers and within 5 yards of each other, and who's responsible for this, I'm going to guess that those are the conversations that they're having there, not just for that game, but for the entire 10-game collapse down the stretch, or however many games it was. They were 10-1. They finished 7-11. Is that what it was?
11-7.
No.
11-7.
10-1, 11-7. So 1-6 down the stretch. Okay, right. What the hell happened in these 7 games? How could a team go from being so impressive and so resilient the first 11 weeks to being so pathetic the last 7 games? I mean, they weren't even close in a lot of these games. It's a really weird phenomenon. There have to be many explanations, okay? And I think over time, some of them will surface, whether there'll be a player that comes out and criticizes a coach, or a coach that criticizes a player, or somebody that comes out and says certain things about this team, because clearly things were not right. So now we wait to see over time some of the explanations that are offered, and more pressingly, more immediately, how this organization plans to address it and what they will do to try to get it turned around, rectified, and get this team back to what people thought it could be. But these are important, significant days for this team, and we're going to see where the owner's head is at on all these issues, where his head and where his stomach is at, frankly.
Schefter, with all the openings in the NFL now for head coaches, and new head coaches will bring in new coordinators and all of that, with those spots having to be filled should you go a certain way, do you see a time frame of the Eagles making a move? Like, is it going to be immediate? Does it have to be immediate in order for them to be in play for other people?
Well, they're behind by 10 days or so because there have been other teams that have been going through their process. But that time can be made up. But let's remember last year what happened when they were last in the pool to go hire a defensive coordinator. That's where a lot of these problems started. And so you don't want to be too late. But then again, we're also talking about, if they decide to go that direction, a collection of coaching talent that I think is unmatched. There's never been a coaching free agent class ever like this. And if you're making changes amongst the staff, sooner is better. It's not critical that it has to be done right now, but you want answers sooner rather than later because it just helps with everything. Again, I don't think this is going to be very long. Like, I think we're going to find out in the next day or two. Everything is status quo, or we're changing some assistants, or we're undergoing a more significant makeover. And we don't know how that's going to come out. I think, it could go any which way.
All right, last question I have for you.
Yeah.
Around the league, is the perception that it would be good to work for Howie Roseman?
I think it would. Yeah, I think it would. By the way, here's what you say to yourself. If the Eagles fired Howie Roseman today, how quickly would he have a job? And I would say
in 2 days.
There's your answer.
But the thing is, though, the people who have to work for him, it's a little different. The success has been clear that he can clean up a mess, but it's been. I mean, he would be if they did move on from Nick Sirianni. He'd be hiring his fourth coach. That's completely unprecedented.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Well, is it him or is it Jeffrey or both? Right? Did Howie make the decision to fire Doug? Did Howie make the decision to fire Chip? He wasn't even a part of it then. So some of those decisions he was taken out of. And again, and I think this is true for Nick and Howie and many people, but we are less than a year removed from this team almost winning a Super Bowl to where they would have earned their place in Philadelphia sports history forever, which they fell short and didn't. But less than a year ago, there couldn't be enough good things said about Nick Sirianni, about Howie Roseman, about these players, about these. And it's just amazing. In a year, it's an entirely different tone.
We lived it, believe me, we lived it on the front lines here, and nobody's pleased. Nobody's pleased, so we can't wait to see the fallout this week. Schefter, good job, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week as the championship games will be set, and hopefully we get some answers on the Eagles front by then.
Yeah, I would think that by next week we'll have a little bit more clarity.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Schefter.
Thank
Talk
you
to you
guys.
soon.
Have a great day.
Adam Schefter joined us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day, and Comcast Business gets you ready for what's next. Plus, we thank Landis Block and Concrete, landisbc.com. Create your own jaw-dropping outdoor paradise. You want to respond to what Adam Schefter had to say or what he didn't say? You can do it at 610-632-0975. Plus, Pat's very interesting and ambitious comparison. It's the John Kincade Show here on 97.5, The Fanatic.
on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic. The reaction to Adam Schefter. I'm frustrated because I think that there was a lot of direct questions that were sidestepped today. Now, I understand it. I understand what his job is and what my job is. But I got to tell you, I was a little frustrated today because the idea is that I think it's clear if I'm speaking Schefty that, deciphering what he's saying. He does not believe that Nick Sirianni is going to be fired. But everything's up to Jeffrey Lurie. The one thing, the takeaway that I had is it's very, very clear. This won't be Howie's decision. It'll be Jeffrey Lurie's decision.
Oh, yeah.
That Jeffrey Lurie hires and fires the coaches, not Howie Roseman. You believe in that 100%, Bob? From you talk to enough guys who work these beats and everything.
It's ultimately Lurie's call. Yeah, absolutely.
That he'd be the one that would pull the trigger on this. Do you think there's any chance that there would be a disagreement as far as whether Nick Sirianni needs to go between Howie and Jeff Lurie?
Not if Howie's smart.
That's what I wonder, too.
Yeah, no, you don't disagree with the owner.
If you disagree with the owner wants to make a move. I don't know that anybody would be there to I don't know how you can speak on Nick Sirianni's behalf, honestly, based on what we saw the last 7 weeks.
Well, on the 7 weeks, you can't speak on his behalf, no. But if you go in the 30 games prior to that, yes, you absolutely can. Super Bowl appearance, 14-3 season, 10-1 start, all of those things, yeah. Nick Sirianni, if he has to go into Jeffrey Lurie and Jeffrey Lurie says, look, I'm wagering here. I'm wavering, I should say. Come in, tell me why I should keep you. I have a list of both. Tell me. He's going to have a pretty big arsenal of why the Eagles should keep him.
What would be if I said to you the same question? Make your case, Nick, but remove the fact that you're not allowed to use your coordinators from last year as your leverage as far as I oversaw great coordinators. Because when we needed you to take the wheel, you didn't take the wheel. You didn't fix anything. In fact, it got worse. That's what I'd be wondering about most of all. Is if there was ever a time where, and it appears from some veterans that have already let out and spoken and some comments that are out there on some of the beats, that the move from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia was not well received amongst the defensive players. That it was too much pressure on them to learn to please a new coordinator, learn to understand what they wanted this, out of things. That to me, that looks like another miscalculation. That's another black mark. Whoever made that call, though, I don't know who made the call.
I've said it before. I'd be absolutely shocked and surprised if Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, the guys that have been here forever, that have overseen everything, that they're looking at a second-year coach and saying, yeah, do what you want. Go ahead, you hire the coordinators. Oh, you want to get rid of them? Sure, no problem. You're going to bring in who? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just find that really hard to believe. I don't know how you guys feel. I don't know if I'm right. I just, if they gave him that autonomy of hiring assistant coaches and firing assistant coaches during a season, I'd be really surprised.
Well, Brian Johnson's name was the one that took a lot of critique. And Pat had a comparison that I thought was very, very eye-opening and honestly made me question my opinion on Brian Johnson.
This is Pat's point of view. Here's Pat.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Pat.
Let me just preface this question by saying I think Brian Johnson's terrible. All right, I don't think he's very good.
You're not on the fence. You're not doing a Shefty. You're not on the fence.
I'm not on the fence at all. I think I can't wait for Brian Johnson to do some interview today to tell me why all those plays were actually really, really good, and we don't know what we're talking about, and that the defense just made unbelievable plays and they were in the right position. But those plays that he called, they were great.
Oh, yeah.
Really looking forward to that. And he can draw all the head coaching interests that are around the league. I always look at it like every team now is looking for the next McVay, the next Shanahan, the next Boy Wonder. You can even throw Sirianni in there if you want to. But the next young upstart coach, and it doesn't really matter if they're good or not. It's just like when they get that label on them, of, oh, this is one to watch, then it kind of sticks with them. So they're going to get interest. But Brian Johnson was horrible. But it reminds me of another young upstart coach that was with the Philadelphia Eagles, 2009, defensive coordinator, and he wasn't very good. Defense sucked. We like to do revisionist history, but the Eagles' defense in 2009 and 2010 was horrible.
It was horrendous.
And that person was Sean McDermott. And after 2 years of being hyped up as the next Jim Johnson, right? He learned under Jim Johnson, took over the job from Jim when Jim got sick. And, this is the guy. And, he knows how to blitz and all that. It didn't transpire onto, local, LaSalle, right? So, you wanted to cheer for him. But it didn't transpire to on the field. And it was bad. It was a bad product to watch. That year was horrible. And ultimately, after 2 years, Andy let him go. And he ends up going to Carolina. I think he's lasted 6 years in Carolina. Initially, that wasn't very good. But he's also learning under Ron Rivera. And from there, he ended up getting the Bills job after a nice Super Bowl run. And he's been in Buffalo ever since. And he ends up being a decent head coach. So I'm wondering, are we repeating ourselves a little bit with Brian Johnson?
I thought you made me think. And, Pat, that's very ambitious of you. You made me think about the idea of my thoughts on Brian Johnson. Are you cutting bait too early, especially when he is well-respected around the NFL? It made me second-guess myself a little bit. I still want him gone.
Me too.
I still want him gone.
Me too. I'm with you.
But I'm willing to take the gamble that he won't become Sean McDermott. He's not going to be the next Kyle Shanahan. I watched Kyle Shanahan work directly at the same level that Brian Johnson was at, and Kyle Shanahan heads and tails above Brian Johnson.
Well, I can't say definitively whether he's going to become the next Shanahan or even Sean McDermott or not. It was his first year as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I mean, that's it. Pat, you talk about McDermott. Yeah, he was here for 2 years. Went to Carolina for 6.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 more. You're talking about 8 years as a DC before he was elevated to head coach. Like, I don't like the way the offense looked at all this year. I didn't like the play calling of Brian Johnson. Do I know what the future's going to hold for him? He had a bad first year. I don't know if he's going to become really good and then become a head coach. I think it's too soon for him to become a head coach, certainly. But I don't know that he's not going to be a terrific offensive coordinator, head coach in the future. But right now, it's not for the year.
That's where I'm at. I'm not willing to sit here and wait with the window being open in with this team. I'm not willing to wait 8 years to find out, to have this guy find his footing in the NFL. Because Sean McDermott was not ready to be a defensive coordinator, let alone a head coach in this league when he got the job. But he got the job because he was a young upstart, boy wonder. And they were also put in a tough position because of Jim's health, that they had to kind of give him the job. He was the next in line. But he gets the job. I don't think they wanted to lose out on a Harbaugh situation either, where another team scoops him up. So they give him the job, and he flounders. And it took 8 years from his first head defensive coordinator job to getting the job in Buffalo. And you can't tell me that it was the same coach. The same coach that took over in Buffalo is not the same coach that we had in 2009. So as an Eagles fan, I'm not willing to sit here and wait as this guy learns on the job. If he wants to learn on the job somewhere else and go to some other team, go to a Seattle and become their OC, and they can sit there and grow together, so be it.
We can't afford that right now.
No, we're not a rebuilding team right now. So it might be history repeating itself, and time will tell. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with history repeating itself because this team's window is open. It's not going to be open forever. And I can't afford to sit here and go, well, you know what? Let's bring him back because, I'm sure he'll be better in year 2. Yeah, I'm sure he will be better in year 2. But is it going to be so much better where the offense is not as predictable? I can't say for sure, where I'm not sitting there,
screaming about it.
The Eagles were so bad on Monday night. I drove my car into a wall. I just couldn't take it.
Literally.
Literally. So I was so mad. And I don't want to do that again with Brian Johnson.
I don't want you to do that again with your car either.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, don't do that.
So learn somewhere else, bud. Kick rocks.
There you go. I love your decisiveness today, Pat. Like, because there's no wavering around. You have to have it. But we all of us. Now, Jeffrey Lurie, I hope, Bob, he is not going into a meeting today saying, I'm on the fence about Nick Sirianni. Let's bring him in, and then I'll make my decision. I hope that driving in today, he was either committed to keeping him or letting him go. because the amount of information that he has, the amount of the amount of data he has should be voluminous by now compared to what we have. And I think we all have a pretty good amount, too, with the great beat writers we have in town, our own eyeballs, all of our passion and fire for following this topic, all the people that we know that give us information. I hope Jeffrey Lurie isn't being swayed by an interview today. By I hope he has an opinion, and he's hoping to have that opinion reinforced.
If I am Jeffrey Lurie, one of the first people I have in my office is Jason Kelce. And I call him in and I say, remove yourself from this team as player. I want your honest opinion. Do players get better under Nick Sirianni? Do you see an offense?
So that's your question.
Are they getting better? Do they grow under Nick Sirianni? Or is it a case of the success was more because of the coordinators we had here last year? And, yeah, I'm looking for an honest answer out of that because it's funny. You bring in Doug Peterson as a head coach, a guy that's never coached before, a guy that never called offenses before, but you go heavy on the coordinators. Kind of, and you brought in the Marty Mornhinweg. Like you went crazy. It's almost like the Eagles lately look at coaching the way they almost look at linebackers and running backs. The head coach.
Interchangeable.
The head coach, I don't have to pay the big money. I don't have to get the big name there because I'll go with the good assistants that'll make him look better. You're not paying assistants the high money that you're going to pay a Belichick, a Tomlin, all those guys. You're getting the Doug Petersons, the Nick Siriannis, and then loading up on coordinators. I don't know if Jeffrey Lurie has this in his mind today. Yeah, Brian Johnson and Patricia and the defense and offensive coordinator, they're all gone. I have to do a lot better job there, and I'm fine with Nick Sirianni overseeing it. I don't know. Maybe that is in his mind. If it is, then I fully expect a full court press on Eric Bieniemy and some other well-known defensive coordinator.
Here's a interesting point, and it comes from our own Rob Motti, who, 97.5, the Fanatic alum and one of the best from the AP. He asks Jalen Hurts after the game on Monday, do you want Nick back? By the way, Rob Motti, I actually am getting some of this stuff because I play it for my students or I ask them. That's a great question. Simple, direct, get the response. Do you want Nick back? And Jalen Hurts says, I didn't know he was going anywhere. And then Rob follows up, well, there's been a lot of questions about it. And Jalen Hurts says, I didn't know that. And he says, you didn't know that? And he says, no. And he said, well, what's your confidence level in him to fix this team? And Jalen Hurts says, I got a ton of confidence in everyone in this building. Just a matter of us going out there and playing clean football, and that's been something we have not done. Jalen Hurts had every opportunity to throw the life raft to Nick Sirianni, and he passed.
But does he answer any question ever? Like if that came from a Jason Kelce or someone who always answers questions honestly and without forethought, then I would take it a little more. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, that's not a.
But Jalen Hurts, we know the way he answers questions. The answers are already in his mind, and here, like Pat, you had a great one yesterday when you did the fake question to him about something specific, and he came up with, I don't know, like the path of life is always.
Oh yeah. I can't take credit for that. It was a tweet that I saw on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm not that creative, Bobby.
But you know what I mean, John?
Well,
Like,
if you were more ambitious, you would.
I don't have the drive.
You just don't.
Well, we all know that. It's just I don't know why we're bringing it. But no, do you know what I mean? If it wasn't Jalen Hurts,
I get you.
John, yeah. But
I'm not
Jalen
happy
Hurts
though with that. Like to me, that would be like saying, Pat, what do you think about working with Kincade? Well, I believe in everybody in our building, and if we all did a better job, we'd be better.
All right, that's a horrible example because I think we both know that would not be my answer. My answer would be I hate it.
Can't stand the bastard.
He's
no,
the
I mean
worst.
it honestly is. I think less of Jalen Hurts after hearing that answer because he knows exactly what he was being asked.
Do you want him to lie?
No, I want him to give me a freaking answer. I want him to go, you mean to tell me he didn't realize that Jalen Hurts is going to try to spin to us, that he had no idea that there's been speculation about his job status? That is bull crap. He knows it. I know it. We all know it. That to me is so arrogant. It's so condescending, Bob, to be like, oh, really? People are talking about that? I haven't heard it. I'm just listening to Anita Baker. I didn't hear that. That's such a load of crap. And to me, it's the job of a leader to understand what people are talking about. It's the job of a leader to understand what might be, what might be the issues that are surrounding your football team. You don't have to listen to sports talk radio 24/7. You don't have to read the newspapers all the time, have your head in an iPad reading every single article that's written about your team. But to act like you have your head in the sand and you don't know what's being talked about your football team, that tells me you don't care enough to know. That tells me you don't want to. I'm living in my little bubble, my little cocoon, and I just have my own, whatever I'm listening to, I'm listening to yes men. I'm listening to people that I pick. I'm not listening to somebody who's going to give me an outside opinion.
Well, there's a few ways of looking at it. One, I don't know. I don't know if he's telling the truth. Like, I've had players tell me, like, look, you don't know my life. I get up in the morning, I get a shower, I go to work, I go play basketball. When I'm done that, I get in my car and I turn on my music. I go home, I work out, I spend time with my family. I don't turn on sports talk. I don't read newspapers, any of that. Then I have a game that night, or we're traveling or wherever. Some guys are really good at shutting it out.
And they are. And there are some of those.
Yeah, and there are. And some of the guys, like, there was two younger players on the Sixers team they honestly said, all we do is play games. Like, that's all we do is play games. Now, these are single guys, and they were best friends, but that's all they did. They said, we don't listen to anything. We don't read anything. Now, is it incumbent upon him to do so? Say he, in his heart of hearts, he doesn't have anything good to say about Nick Sirianni. Say in his heart of hearts, after that game, he was so pissed off the way this offense has been going that, like A.J. Brown a few weeks ago, he didn't have anything good to say, but he said stuff anyway. And his stuff was, oh, really? I didn't know that. Is that a leader? That he doesn't go and blast somebody?
No.
Maybe. It depends how the followers are looking at it. If you're a leader, you got followers. If I'm a follower, do I say, ooh, that's really cool, he didn't throw the head coach under the bus?
Where do you fall on this? If you want to share a thought with us, you can at 610-632-0975. We'll get your thoughts on that. Plus, Pat will have Pat's takes, which always puts a smile on our face on Wednesdays.
When he's
of the time.
ambitious with it.
Yes, exactly. We'll see how ambitious he was. John Kincade Show on 97.5, The Fanatic. I love the BetParks app. I've been telling you that you want to download the BetParks app today. It's absolutely awesome.
WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, back to the John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.
We appreciate you being a part of the show every week. The more time you spend with the station every day is the happier we are. And when you download the 97.5 The Fanatic app and you listen in every day and you take us with you in your car or back to the office, we appreciate it. Thanks to the YouTube crew. We've been seeing you. We appreciate you being here. John Kincade Show. As we head towards the 9 o'clock hour, which will be presented to you by the Bagster. You knew this. It's a dumpster in a bag. You can get yours today at Home Depot and Lowe's. For details, go to Bagster.com. We'll have Pat's Takes coming up here in a minute or two. There's also some really interesting audio I want to play for you from a NBA broadcast that will make you laugh. And, Bob, I don't think you've heard it, and I know Pat hasn't heard it, so the two of you will get to hear it for the first time. And it's really dicey.
Dicey?
It's dicey. It's really dicey. Interesting. Hey, I know this. Mike won our trip down to Tampa for the wild card game with Philly Sports Trips. Mike, you got home? How was it?
We got home. Somehow we got home yesterday. Took forever, but it was a great trip, even though they lost. Vince ran a great program down there for everybody. I took my son with me since I didn't take you guys.
I think that's a good choice, Mike. I think it's a good choice. Your son deserves. How old's your son?
21.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you love the tailgates. You had fun at the tailgate.
He loved that.
Great.
Yeah, he got some autographs from some of the players, some of the Tampa Bay players, Eagles players. Got to meet Adam Schefter, RG3 down there. He had a blast. He loved it.
That's absolutely awesome. I'm glad you had a great time.
We should have Vince run the Eagles' offense and defense.
It would go smoothly.
Yeah, it would go. He's ready and prepared for everything. Yeah, Vince from Philly Sports Trips knows how to run something.
I'm glad you had a great time, though, Mike. I'm glad you had a great time.
Great. I appreciate you guys. You guys doing a good job. Love you guys.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks
Appreciate
for listening,
it, buddy.
man. We appreciate you. It is a lot of different questions about what's going to go on down at the NovaCare today. Brian in Dallas joins us. Brian, good morning. You're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, man? Hey, wow, I was almost all for bed. You guys pretty much covered everything you had to say, but I just want to say that I'm definitely in agreement with you guys. John, I think, man, I love you, buddy, but I think your passion gets in the way a little bit. When you were talking about Jalen Hurts, Bob was absolutely right. I mean, I know you're mad. We're all mad. We're all angry, but that guy in front of a reporter or national TV, he's not going to throw.
It wasn't national TV. It was a reporter.
Or a reporter. He's not going to throw his coach. He's not going to throw his coach under the bus.
Wait. I mean, what about? So you're saying you believe he wants to? What about throwing his coach a bone for something that he does well? Mike McCarthy. Wait a minute. Let me just give you here.
No,
Mike McCarthy's on the same hot seat. He is on the exact same hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was asked the exact same type of question after his season ends. And he said, and he's asked the question about what does he think about his coach? And he says, well, if he's under review, then I should be too. Because the reason I had a season that I had is because of him. This team had the success we've had because of him. We win or lose together. That's how you answer. That's how you answer the question.
That's a good point. But let me counter that with this. Right? And I'm not a reporter. All right. And I thank you for paying more attention to that semi-pro team down here than I do. All right. But with that being said, right? You saying that this is a reporter on the side or what have you, right? I think it's obvious to us that Nick Sirianni has so many questions. And I think in Jalen's way, I'm just guessing, that you got a reporter on the side, you're not sit in front of the stand, in front of all these people like Dak was. And his endorsers, well, listen, I'm just going to say I don't know, right? Because we know there's a problem, I think there's a much bigger problem with us than it is with the team down here. I really do, because McCarthy, if anything, has shown he can call plays. Not the most effective, but their play calling is not as horrendous as ours.
Oh, much, but their
All
play
right?
calling is much better than ours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're looking at a head coach who has proven. You remember when he took over the offense, we were like 2-5. Then we let it go. We wound up being 7-2. We've seen a head coach who just cannot call an offense. And you made a great point.
Yeah.
He's a guy that apparently that can guide coordinate. Like, he needs great coordinators under him. Because there is no excuse. You change the defense, and you keep telling everybody this is your offense, and you don't step in. Who among us, everybody here talking right here, you, Pat, and Bob, if you were in Sirianni's position and you knew how to call plays, who would sit back and continue to let Brian Johnson call this crap that he's been calling? None of us would. If we really knew, none of us would do that. I don't even think this man has confidence in being able to scheme his own playbook.
Well, and that's the point that Pat's been making all week, and appreciate it, Brian. That's the point that Pat's been making all week. The idea is that if he's just good at overseeing and he can't step in.
Yeah, so who made the decision at the time? Like when they fired Desai from defensive coordinator duties, and we were on the show that day doing the pregame show, and we put the question out there, if you were told a coordinator was going to be fired. They went defensive. Why? Because they had a Matt Patricia there. Boom. Plug and play. Had they fired Brian Johnson or taken those duties away from him, who are you hiring? I mean, if Nick Sirianni made the call, like this is the question we had, who made the call? I still believe Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman are the ones that make the call mid-season on firing a defensive coordinator. Why didn't they do it to the offensive coordinator? Because the guy in place to take over those duties is probably your head coach.
Or the personal relationship he's got with Jalen Hurts, they didn't want to exploit it. That's another theory.
Yeah, maybe.
Just a theory. Now, one of the things is I want to correct myself. It wasn't Rob, and I appreciate it. It was Jeff McClain who was asking the series of questions of Jalen Hurts about the speculation on Nick Sirianni. But again, Dak Prescott's answer when asked the exact same question about Mike McCarthy, he's been amazing. I don't know that there can be questions about his status, but in that case, there should be questions about me as well. That guy, the season I've had because of him. This team has had the success that we've had because of him. We win or lose together. It's not hard. It's not hard. Stop making excuses for Jalen Hurts, as Pat will say, speaking in fortune cookies. It is not hard to answer that question.
Well, then you should get Dak Prescott as your quarterback. Is that what you want?
No, I'm just saying it's
no,
not.
I know. I'm
no,
teasing,
I get you, but still, though.
They're just different people. And, not some guys are really good at answering stuff. Some guys aren't good at BSing in front of a camera and microphone.
Do you think it's BS? Do you think he was?
I don't think he gave his true feelings because it was right after a game. And there are still some guys that are like, hey, that guy's a head coach. Who am I to talk about his job? I understand that.
Then just say something nice. Then just say something that you admire
about
the guy.
And I thought the caller pointed it out perfectly. He went the route of, I don't know. I didn't know. I don't know.
And I think that is taken as, whether it's right or wrong, that's taken as you're not supporting. That's how it will be assumed, that you don't have anything nice to say. Because the old line, you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. I think that's how it's going to be assumed. It's very, very easy to say. And there was no self-reflection of, wow, Nick Sirianni's job's getting questioned? Well, then mine should be too. Then all of us in this locker room, our job should be questioned too. Because
I was always told, but that's going by the saying that you just said. If you don't have something nice to say, so he just pleaded ignorance.
Wow. Hey, Carlos joins us. Carlos, you're on the Fanatic. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Great to hear from you.
Yeah, I just got to. So it's a simple situation. You have a team that collapsed, a colossal collapse, never been seen in the history of the NFL. You cannot fire your $50 million quarterback. So the coach has to go. There's really no reason for anybody to say anything. You guys are reading way too much into this. There's something dramatic that happened in that locker room. We're not going to hear about it because Philadelphia doesn't hire players that kiss and tell. We'll hear about it after the fact when they're retired, et cetera, et cetera. But Nick Sirianni has to go. The longer they wait to fire him, the quicker they're losing the fan base. There's just absolutely no way this guy could stay in command as the team leader. At this point, it's shocking. I'm shocked they didn't fire him yesterday morning.
Do you believe? So you do believe it's going to happen, or is this just what you want to happen?
I'm sick to my stomach that they hasn't been fired. I feel like they may give him another chance, which is absolutely absurd. I never liked the guy from day one. My buddy and I talked about this when he had that goofy press conference. The guy just seems woefully underqualified to be a head coach. You know, he's a cheerleader. He really is a cheerleader, and there's nothing wrong with that, except we have some cute cheerleaders. We don't need any more cheerleaders.
Thank you, buddy. We do have some cute cheerleaders.
You know, there was one of my friend's daughters a cheerleader. There was an interesting thing on Twitter yesterday, whether it means anything or not, and it was Sirianni. I forget the game, waving at the Chiefs. Was it the Super Bowl?
Was it the
Pat,
way
did you
off
see
the
it?
field?
I did not.
Yeah, so he's standing next to Jalen Hurts, and he looks back apparently at the Chiefs and
That was in the
waves to
Super
him.
Bowl, yes.
And Hurts turns around and grabs his arm and puts it down. Like, what are you doing? And Sirianni gives him a look, like a smile. It looked like the kid was being the adult and the adult was being the kid. And that could be like a little thing that bothers people about Nick Sirianni, that he is more that type, the jumping in the stands, all of that, than he is the actual teacher slash coach.
No NFL head coach that I've ever witnessed has conducted themselves on a sideline like Nick Sirianni. Not one. I've never seen NFL head coaches engage with fans. And I'm not talking about Nick Sirianni thanking fans who travel after a big win. I'm talking about taunting opposing fans, posturing to opposing fans, mugging for the cameras. I can't imagine. Again, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, any of them, knowing where the cameraman is on the sideline to do like a mugging for the camera thing like he did last year against the Giants during the playoff game when they were winning in a blowout. I do not prefer that of my head coach. I think it's amateur hour. I think it looks like it's a complete look at me moment from a guy who, to me, that in that position should be doing everything to say, look away from me. Look at my players, look at my talent, look at my team.
I like it, but
go ahead. I'm sorry, Pat.
No, I like it, but you got to. I mean, when you lose, you look like an idiot.
Oh, you say like you at the moment it's to the moment it's good for us. 31 other cities are looking at it going a-hole.
I mean, I thought he looked like a D-bag, but I chuckled at it because they were up by like 1 million. So,
and I chuckled too.
But I never had necessarily a problem with it, but I could see why some of the like the older generation would, because you're right, like it's not seen.
Well, nobody's doing it. Like none of the younger
and that's
coaches.
the thing. Like I like it because I feel like it embodies kind of my attitude of like, you know, if you win, talk your bleep, but when you don't win, doesn't look great, you know. I mean, my first thought when they lost, no, it wasn't my first thought, but one of the thoughts that I had when they lost was, you know, this guy's screaming like at Kansas City Chiefs fans, and then it all kind of spiraled out of control. And I'm sure he doesn't really like it when he's probably walking off the sidelines and, you know, he's getting crap from Eagles fans, which he gets.
Which every coach in every NFL city has gotten forever.
But, like, you know, the cute, kitschy nature of like, oh, no, I like our fans. I like our fans expressing themselves. And, oh, I'll go buy them coffee. Well, notice how that doesn't happen anymore. He's not buying people coffee. Crazy how that works. You know, it's all cute when it's one game. Yeah, I'll buy you coffee. And then when it's, you know, 7 games, oh, no, we're not buying coffee. No, we're not having fun anymore. It literally reminds me of, like, Denzel Washington to Petey in Remember the Titans of like, football's fun to you? No, football's not fun. No fun, sir. Like, we're not having fun. And Nick Sirianni in this case is Petey. Like, you thought he was having fun? No, we're not having fun anymore, Petey, are we? Because you're dropping the ball.
Yeah, you hate to take a personality away from somebody, whether it's a player or a coach. That's who they are. That's ultimately why you hired them. I don't think Nick Sirianni went into a meeting with Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, and they didn't come away kind of knowing what kind of guy he was. Well, that's the kind of guy he was. He's very emotional. He does these things. Yeah, I don't want to sound like, you know, the old guy in the room and say, act like you've been there before, Nick. But I did. I told you guys when he went into the stands and we talked about it, I said, yeah, that's not me. I'm not that. That's just not me. I don't appreciate it. I've always been taught, keep your head down, appreciate what you have. If you want to celebrate, do it in the privacy of your teammates and all that. But I also said, you know, he's going to turn off a lot of people in the NFL doing those type of things. And, you know, if the day ever comes that he's going to be looking for a job, there's going to be some people that aren't going to forget that.
And they're not going to be interested in having him.
There's also going to be people that maybe love that. I love that he shows his emotion, bringing that. But yeah, it's interesting that he chooses to do those things.
And I don't think it's an age thing. There's lots of young, brash, young coaches in the NFL. Many young guys. There's guys younger than him. There's guys older than him. And they don't conduct themselves like that. They conduct themselves the way you don't see them acting like that.
Well,
and I think he's the only one that we can point to.
You didn't see players back in the day running towards cameras, 11 guys after picking up a fumble and running towards cameras and posing either. You know, it's like a different society now.
I think
it's
different
a different
with players than coaches, though.
Well, I wonder if now, because he's got to be one of the youngest coaches in the league.
He is
you
one of the
wonder if that's going to, like you talked about coaches wearing capri pants now on the sideline and stuff like that. You wonder if coaches are going to look to be more seen than just heard now. I don't know.
McDaniel during a game, though, to me, is all about the game. And you see a little bit of that in the Hard Knocks. He's all about, when that game's going on, he is head first into it. And he's really into it. And he will engage with his players.
Well, that's because he's calling plays.
Yes, and he engages with his players, and you see that. And he seems to have good engagement with them.
Oh, yeah, when he goes over and says, that was a horrible call by me, I'll take all that. I love that. I'm with Pat. I like him.
But you know, he's engaged in the game because he's calling plays. But when you're not calling the offensive plays and you're not calling the defensive plays,
what are you doing?
Then you just have a really, really, really good seat, and then you just get to scream at the line judge. The coming back and going, well, no, I mean Nick Sirianni's fingerprints and this is his offense, and he jumps in there every once in a while. Like, we don't know. Like at the end of the day, we don't know because I just never seen him do it.
That's a
every
problem.
time they look over the sidelines, he's not looking at a play chart. He's just staring off into space every time. So, yeah, until I see any different, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to believe when the Eagles say, no, it's not all Brian Johnson. Like, there's a little bit of Nick Sirianni in there, and he mixes it in. How
Nonsense.
much? Like, does he actually call a play, or does he say, hey, Brian, I think we should run here?
What would be the most surprising news?
Everybody's
to
back.
you guys to cut. That would be most surprising.
Yep. Sorry to cut you off.
Well, the defensive staff, we can all assume.
That's what I'm saying. Like that would be the most surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, and when I say everybody, I mean either decide where Patricia has to go. But if you bring both those guys back, you bring Brian Johnson back, and you bring Nick Sirianni back. Yeah, that would shock the hell out of me.
Do you think shock is coming this week?
No.
This week, no. I think next week. If I remember correctly, it took a little bit for Peterson to go. Like
Well, no, he had the whole other week. Remember?
That's what I'm saying.
Because they agreed to meet again the next week.
Yeah,
at Jeffrey Lurie's house.
Exactly. So I mean, But to Schefter's point, with the coaching market the way it is, do you want to be sitting there and waiting a week? Like I don't think they have a week because there are some pretty good coaches available, and I don't want to be stuck in a situation like they were stuck in with Desai, where it's like, we wait around. Now, that was a different situation because of what happened with Gannon, but they were behind the eight ball. I mean, Gannon taking that job, put him behind the eight ball, and they had to quickly rush to get a replacement, and they end up with some dude who just happened to, stumble into an NFL job, it seems like, because he doesn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I would say the most shocking thing would be we get an alert that the Philadelphia Eagles have fired General Manager Howie Roseman.
That would be, to me, the biggest shock.
I'd be floored at that.
Now,
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, but think about this. Like I've been saying, and I'm not calling for anybody's job at all. I'm just putting this out there and for speaking purposes. Say Howie's hands were all over the hiring of Nick Sirianni and the hiring of these coordinators and the firing of a defensive coordinator in the middle of the season. I mean, that's the overseeing of everything else that you want to get rid of. I wonder. Now, what we all know, I'm just putting it out there because if it happens, we can say, hey, we called that one. But that would be the most shocking thing to me. If it came out, the Philadelphia Eagles have parted ways with Howie Roseman.
All right, we want to have a little fun this morning? Sure you do. You want to hang out with Pat and have Pat's takes.
With or without. Either way, it's time for Pat's Takes.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Pat.
What's up, Pat?
Thank you for coming. Yeah, hopefully this is fun, but I wasn't real motivated, and I have no drive, so...
Ambition is what
look
we're
out.
talking
Drive,
about.
ambition, all. I got none of it, Bobby.
I know.
got none of it.
The
But
tank is empty.
what I have is awards, Bobby. I have awards because, as you guys know, it's award season, and the other night was the Emmys. But some of the awards given out may have actually been recycled from ESPN. Because turns out ESPN was scheming for years to give their talent fake Emmy awards that many have since had to return. This all thanks to a report from The Athletic. It exposed the conspiracy from the higher-ups at ESPN to pad their stats, if you will, by giving their on-air talent bogus Emmys that they didn't actually win.
Whoa.
And it was kind of genius, the way they did it. So they would submit fake names of producers who didn't actually exist for certain segments. But they would do so in order to get the Emmy Award, and then they would just re-engrave it for the person that they wanted to give it to. They would then re-engrave the statue. They'd hand it to the on-air talent who wasn't able to win the award. They weren't eligible. And they also had no idea that they didn't actually win the award. Now,
You're kidding me.
Yeah, they had no idea. Now, the Emmys should shoulder some blame here because, look, they didn't research it at all. Then they should shoulder some blame a bit, because it's a little bit their fault, but it's all parties involved. And you can't really blame the Emmys too much because it's such an outlandish scheme that the Emmys probably never even considered somebody would actually think of this. But, the ESPN higher-ups are scheming out there. Now, according to ESPN spokesperson, the higher-ups at ESPN heard about the scheme, hired an outside law firm to dive into the matter, and then they, quote, disciplined those involved. And we're talking like the higher-ups with like the underlings, if you will.
The big titles.
Yeah, the big wigs, president, if you will, taking out like the senator.
Wow.
But yeah, they disciplined them. No word if they fired him or not. But this does have me wondering if the Oscar that our boss Joe Bell handed me a few years ago is something I actually earned or something that was just bought from Hollywood Boulevard.
Interesting.
I like to think that I earned it, Bobby.
By the way, I did read in that story that a former executive, a guy named Scott, was not involved in this scandal. That he was not involved. That he did not re-engrave Emmys.
Can't confirm or deny that. No,
I've heard good things about him, but don't know if he can be trusted.
I'm getting conflicted reports.
We'll find out
on that. Yeah, I think he's out there in Williamsport just carving them up. Just carving those Emmys up. All right, now look, I'm a big fan of winning and then reminding your most hated rival about the fact that they're losers and you're at the top of the mountain. And it appears that one diehard Michigan fan did that recently. Now, a fan went viral when he took a Michigan national championship hat to Ohio State, snapped a photo of it, but this wasn't just any fan. This was Conrad Stallions, enemy of the Ohio State. For those of you who may have forgotten who Stallions is, he was the Michigan analyst who came under fire for spying allegations that eventually got Harbaugh a suspension, and Stallions lost his job. Now, Stallions was going to Michigan opponents' games. He was buying the tickets, and then he was filming their sidelines. All of this was on his own, apparently. Yeah, Harbaugh knew nothing about
nothing about this
allegedly.
Guy.
Yeah, so for Michigan fans, Stallion has become kind of a martyr. The Michigan version of Barb Batoni, if you will. All right, guy fell on the sword for the greater good. Because when the NCAA investigation went down, Stallions decided to, quote, resign from the position. But amazingly, Stallions holds no grudge whatsoever to Michigan, so much so that he decided to head to Ohio State. So I'll ask you guys, is this a hilarious move, bringing the championship hat to the shoe, or is this just a cry for attention from an unemployed weirdo who had a propensity for watching sidelines, not football games?
I will tell you this, and I know this for a fact, being in college football country for a long time, to get a credential to a college football game in a major conference. So I'm going ACC, SEC, Big Ten. You have to be presented by the home team or the away team, unless you are a national correspondent.
Well, no, he was buying tickets.
Well, the thing is that, but he also had field passes in some of the games. He had field passes and dressed as the other team.
You can get a field pass. Dressing as the other team's different, but you can acquire one of those.
How?
You can buy one of those. You can get a boost or something. I mean, there's way. Like I had a field pass for Temple one time. Like
they let you on the field?
They did, because I knew a guy.
Well, there you go.
I knew a guy that worked in the ticket office, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you want to go in the field? Sure. All right, I'll watch from the tunnel." Like, yeah, why not? And it was cool. So there's ways around that, but yeah, this is. I'm torn. Like, I like the move, but then I go, you're kind of being a little weird because you're unemployed. Probably should be.
I would say, yeah, it's a move by him. I'm not going to call him names, but it's a move by him. Yeah, to get noticed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. All right. Today in sports, not a ton happened, but Bobby, you'll like this one. In 1916, Rodman Wanamaker, of course, the great Rodman Wanamaker, organizes a lunch to discuss forming a golfers association, which ultimately ended up becoming the PGA.
They ate at Wanamakers.
Yeah.
That's where I
Okay,
guess
we're
that
moving
story,
on.
yeah.
In 1954, the 4th annual Pro Bowl was held, and Chuck Bednarik was your MVP, Concrete Charlie.
Did he play both ways that game?
I don't know.
They didn't go to Hawaii, did they?
I don't think so.
I'm sure they probably didn't send him to Hawaii back then.
I highly doubt that. Was Hawaii even a state? I joke. In 1995.
Let me Google that.
Yeah, the LA Rams announced that they were moving to St. Louis. And then they later decided they wanted a do-over, and they went back to LA, which is where they're at now. And then in 1997, Dennis Rodman was suspended for kicking a cameraman. That's all I got.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I think we all remember that one. Yeah, that was a
kicked him in the jewels.
That was a big story.
It wasn't very nice.
Was it?
I thought it was.
I thought
the
he
guy's
just kicked
jewels.
him.
I think he kicked him in the jewels.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
guy shouldn't have been sitting there.
Bob wants to label.
I'm kidding.
He had to be sitting there.
I'm kidding.
Bob wants to label the Eagles off season. He already labeled Pat earlier in the show, in case you missed that. We'll see if he labels this off season the same
Lovingly,
way.
I labeled Pat.
John Kincade Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yes, I was labeled.
Very ambitious. John Kincade show on 97.5 The Fanatic this morning.
We don't lack it. We don't lack it.
No, we don't. And we're waiting. We're waiting for news out of the NovaCare complex.
We're motivated to get some news.
You know the Bob hates
You were
price.
ambitious. You'd go down there and try to get it.
Bob hates.
I'm not that ambitious.
He's right then.
Yeah, he's got
Bob's
me.
proven right. All right, so the game they would that they play and Pat loves Price is Right like normal people, but Bob would even know the game, the cliffhanger game, where the man goes up the hill and if at $25, then $26 he falls off.
This is a contestant? They have him falling?
No, they have the little man. He goes, the little yodeling guy goes up the mountain. I can't yodel.
Yeah, you don't
So
want
I
to
don't know
yodel.
how to
But,
yodel.
A real guy or a
no,
he's a
it's
little
like a
guy.
cardboard or like kick construction. He goes up and then all of a sudden he falls off.
But he is a
Sounds like a fun
To his,
game.
to his death.
That sounds like
Okay.
a really fun game.
Bob
Okay, by
Barker's
the way,
killing guys.
This is like the Melrose Place episode on Seinfeld, where they put him on the lie detector and said, "You come on, you've seen the guy
yeah,
going up
you
the hill.
definitely you've seen it.
I
You might
swear to
not,
God,
you
I
might
have
not
not
know
seen
the
it.
name, but I think
you don't
you've
know
seen
the
it.
name, but whatever. If I was to say to you right now, when will the first news bomb drop out of NovaCare? Will it be before noon during middays with Andrew Salchonis? Will it be afternoons during the best show ever? Or will it be not at all today? No major news bomb drops out of the team today. It's exit interview day. I mean, this is the day we are all on watch. All day long, I'm going to be refreshing, checking to see what potentially we get.
Is there, I didn't check my emails yet. Is there a plan for anybody to talk to media today? Do we know?
I do not believe so today. I do not believe so.
Yeah. See, the reason I ask is because in the NBA, when they did exit interviews, as the players were done, they would come down and talk to us, and the coach would come down and the GM would talk.
Quick little thing.
And yeah, we were pretty much done after that.
Does it change when you are in a season of turmoil like this?
No, I remember Doug Collins coming down after they lost in a playoff saying, we're going to blow it up. This isn't the way to go. We're blowing this up. Like the day after they lost Game 7
told
to
you
the
that? He walked out and
all of
told
us.
you? Oh, just told you all.
Said we realized that this isn't going to work. And they did. That's when they went after Andrew Bynum. But do we find out something today is Wednesday? I think we do. I think
So you do
something
think-
happens today.
What
I
about
don't
you,
know
Pat?
when, but I do think something will happen.
I think
today.
something might happen today, but it is something that we already know. Like
Matt Patricia, will
Defensive
not be
Patricia,
asked.
Sean Desai won't return. Yeah, I think it's stuff that you go, okay, we can move on now. What's the big? What else is happening?
We're going to move to the next. The next story is going to be they're in the market. They're in the market for a new defensive coordinator.
I say they do it all together, though.
So you don't think it'll
you're
trickle out?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get on a Wednesday that Matt Patricia and Sean Desai have been released by the team, and then on Friday that Brian Johnson has been released by the team. I think you get it all together because I don't know that an organization wants to drag something out like that.
Do you believe there's anything? Do you think there's anything that has not been already decided?
I don't think an interview is going to change minds, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
I think everything has been decided, yes.
I think everything's been decided also.
I don't. I think Lurie wants to hear them out a bit. He's very calculated. Like, he doesn't just make rash decisions. He usually will, at the very least, hear the other side. I don't know if he's been so involved that he has asked Nick, like, hey, what's going on? He might have let this entire situation play out just to see how it went, and then he's going to ask questions. Because I don't get the sense that Jeffrey Lurie, while he is an involved owner, is that involved where he's, like you talk about Arthur Blank, like being in the locker room and questioning
on the
coaches,
sideline every
sidelines, and all
game.
that. Like, I think Jeffrey Lurie is a really, really good owner because he's willing to spend money. He wants to win, and I think he knows where his role is, and he knows where his lane is, and he doesn't venture out of that. And while
He doesn't have to. You know why?
Why? Tell
Not to
me.
interrupt you. He doesn't walk around in shorts and hooded sweatshirts and during practices, right?
He doesn't.
Who does? Howie.
Yeah.
Howie's.
So he doesn't have to do it because he has Howie doing it
So
for him.
do you think Howie was pulling Nick aside during this stretch, going like, "Dude, what the hell's going on"?
I'm
not saying he didn't, but
probably
you'd know better than I would.
Well, if we think that he.
I'm sorry, John.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, Sam Hinkie would sit and talk to his head. Well, it was Brett Brown. Like nonstop every day, all day.
Really?
Okay.
Oh God, yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were next to each other. Yeah. Look, this isn't church and state. It's not like ownership and coaching is. You're all together in this.
No, I got you.
You know what I mean?
I've just watched some different. I guess I've watched some different relationships between GMs and owners, and not seen it be as much on a daily basis. Have seen it be more.
I've seen it more daily basis. Yeah, if we were to have, like tonight, we're going to have tonight when we're doing the Sixers Gala from 7 to 9, me, Andrew,
on
and
here,
Tyrone.
on the Fanatic.
On the Fanatic, yeah. Daryl Morey's going to be on at 7 o'clock. I'll ask Daryl Morey, but I already know the question. Like, he probably talks to Nick Nurse every day. I'm not probably. Like, I know the first thing that coaches that I covered did was go into the office and sit down with the GM and maybe the owner and have their feet up, and they might just be shooting the bull crap, but they also have business to take care of because they're all in it together. There is, like, to me, that's why I said on this show the other day that we had, like, I don't find it bad that the owner's talking to the coaches and stuff. Not to the extent of a Jerry Jones or anything like that, but they're all in it together. Like, this is, this is their jobs. So, yeah, I don't have any problem, and I'm sure that most GMs talk to their coaches every day. I'd be like the thing on Sam Hinkie that was surprising with people that worked for the organization was when he wasn't around, that they had never seen anything like that, that they couldn't believe that they didn't know if he was in his office or not.
That's interesting. It's really interesting. I'm fascinated how different organizations do it and how things work like that. Joe joins us on the Fanatic. Joe, good morning.
Morning, fellas. How we doing today?
Good, buddy.
So, honestly, I haven't heard anybody else say this yet. Now, like, the numbers that defend the offense this year was we were ranked 7th. And what scares me most is with the $250 million that we have tied up with Jalen Hurts, we know he's buddy-buddy with Brian Johnson. I just have this weird feeling that Sirianni's out and Brian Johnson ends up getting the promotion to head coach.
What?
That's kind of what I see happening. You have $250 million tied up in Jalen Hurts. That's your biggest piece right now that you need to save because, let's face it, Hurts didn't look like Hurts this year. Now, how do you make sure that your $250 million investment pays off? You kind of have to pander and cater to that. And we all know that him and Brian Johnson have known each other for however long.
But, Joe, real quick, you kind of contradicted the situation there where you said promote Brian Johnson because you have to keep him with Jalen Hurts, but you also said Jalen Hurts had a horrible year this year.
Well,
you know what I mean? So the two are tied together, aren't they?
Yes, yes, but now defending Brian Johnson, couldn't he just say, well, I still put up the number 7 offense in the NFL being restricted by Sirianni's philosophies?
That's a good point.
That's not bad. I'm telling you, Joe, I'd be floored.
I'd be shocked beyond belief.
I don't think I would like it, but honestly, I just have this weird feeling about that situation. Jalen Hurts is the number 1 most important piece in our organization. How do you keep him intact? Got to keep his guys around him.
Well, I'm telling you, you're an interesting character.
That would be more surprising than Howie maybe getting released.
That would be that's incredible. Good job, Joe.
Wow.
Okay, I don't think it happens, but I really, really find that's interesting. There's no way. I mean, look, he's getting chatter, but I don't think that they would. I don't think that they would cater to that.
Had he had a season where it was like, wow, this guy is really good, and you had the threat of losing him and things, Jalen Hurts looked really good under him, then, yeah, I would consider it. But if Jalen Hurts looked really good and he had a great offense, it wouldn't have been an 11-7 season.
That's incredible. That's an incredible.
No, take it out of our minds. Wipe it away. It's not happening. Damn you, Joe.
Hey, Graf, welcome in this morning, Graf. How are you, buddy?
I don't think Joe's totally off with that. I mean, you turn around and you let Shane Steichen go, and look what he's doing. I don't know if Jeffrey Lurie likes to look at
Shane had success. Johnson,
yeah, but, I mean, like
Johnson did not.
Joe's argument there is, seventh. But here's my thing. I don't want Brian Johnson back. I don't want Nick Sirianni back. I texted Bob, and I know he didn't see it because he's a very busy man, but I needed to text somebody my anger.
Oh, that was you. I didn't know who it was. I don't have you in my phone, Griff. I apologize.
That's Bob. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You know why? Because that first drive, that last play of the first drive, you knew that game was over when they send the house, vacate the entire middle of the field, and all of your receivers are either running out routes or sideline routes. Like, the most crazy thing in the world. And then people want to turn around and say, well, why isn't Jalen reading and everything else? Well, if the coach isn't putting in the scheme any kind of plays to audible into when you see the middle of the field vacated, then what is Jalen Hurts supposed to do? And, like, that's my argument to all of this is at first, Jalen going on the sideline, not looking at the pad and all that other stuff was aggravating me. But now I completely understand it. What's he going to go on the sideline and look at? Oh, look, the middle of the field was wide open. Yeah, I knew that. But I didn't have a play to audible into because my coach is a moron and he's out here pooping on flowers telling me he's
Well, there we go. Graff's special need of.
I just answered Graff's text.
That's amazing.
Him. I didn't have him in my phone.
That's amazing.
Wow, this whole Brian Johnson thing now has kind of put my head in a pretzel. It's not. There's no chance of that. Come on, guys. You got to tell me there's no chance of that, Pat.
There's no chance. Come on now, right?
I would put the chance at 2%.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. I got to tell you, Joe just blew my mind with that, though. That really does. Because we talk about what would be the most shocking thing. Brian Johnson goes from that to that. Because his offense, it's got skewered on a. Troy Aikman took Brian Johnson's offense and destroyed it the other night.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
And it's funny. I saw somebody on Twitter say, well, there was a the play that you talked about earlier, John, where Dallas Goedert and a receiver, I don't know if it was Devontae Smith or not, were 5 yards from each other on a play. And they pointed it out. Orlovsky talked about how bad it was. Somebody said that there was hand signals being given by Jalen Hurts, but the wide receivers didn't pick up on it, and they were he was checking out of it, whatever it was. Doesn't that still fall on the offensive coordinator? Doesn't that still fall
It should.
Like, they're not doing things the right way.
Or they're trying to do it in a different way that's not working.
Yeah.
A different, power structure or reporting structure or something like that is obviously not working. I wanted you to hear this, just a little bit of levity, even though it's sort of really uncomfortable. Ian Eagle doing the Brooklyn Nets games on the Yes Network with Mike Fratello. And, Pat, you did not listen, right?
Which Eagle is this?
Good. This is Mike Fratello working with Ian Eagle.
Oh, okay.
On the Nets broadcast. Listen in.
Could I make one point? Sure can. I just want to say that earlier you had a very patronizing tone towards me. I fully understand what a slip screen is. I've been doing the NBA for 18 years. But the way you presented it initially was gobbledygook. So, like the audience, I wanted you to come back and explain yourself. And you then just took a firing line on me. And it was uncalled for.
I don't think so.
That's exactly what happened.
You are overly sensitive to that.
I am not.
Did you have a bad day today?
It's second game of a back-to-back.
The ride back from
very
Philly,
tough.
did it disturb you last night?
That was 2 hours with you, which is probably the reason why I've had enough tonight.
That's how they went to commercial.
Sounds like me and Pat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they went to commercial.
Do you want the bad news?
What?
This is old.
What do you mean it's old?
I have heard this before. I've heard the same thing. The tone of, did you have a bad day today? You're overly sensitive. Yeah, this has got to be an old clip that's resurfacing on
because of Iron Eagle working.
I guess. I don't know. Think about it. Like, Iron Eagle wasn't in Philly.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, this is an old clip. It's an oldie but a goodie.
That is interesting, though.
And I'm sure that there's plenty of people that didn't hear it.
That is interesting, though. Have you ever heard a play-by-play guy and a color guy go at it like that?
Not since last year. since when the first time I heard, like I've heard that before.
You had heard
yeah,
it before.
yeah. I didn't know if I thought there was like more
no,
meaning,
no.
like those guys got in a fist fight or something last
gosh,
night.
I remember.
It's so
I remember Kate
uncomfortable,
fighting
isn't it?
Allah.
Yeah, Allah lost
remember that
one
time?
bad.
Oh man, yeah.
Kate kicked his ass, right?
Kate boxed those kidneys in, where Allah had to do the game standing up for about a week, and he learned his lesson.
He did.
You know, it's that prison mentality of like getting there and just beat up the toughest guy you can see. And that's what Kate Scott did when she got the job.
By the way,
I ain't Zoom off, bro. But yeah, that's
Is that what she said?
Absolutely.
You ain't working with
This
Zoom
plane ain't
anymore.
landing.
But yeah, that clip is awesome. You're overly sensitive today.
That's great. Pat, what were you proud of the show and the callers yesterday?
I am proud of the show.
Sometimes
yesterday.
you're not.
Yeah, a lot.
You said you put that in your notes. You said that you were proud of the show and the callers
Mike,
yesterday.
I'm proud of the call. I'm proud of Mike. Yes, I am proud of that caller.
Yes.
Proud of us. Proud of the callers from yesterday and also today because we did 4 hours yesterday and we have done 3 hours and 40 minutes today.
Okay.
And there is one person that has not been brought up once. Can you guess who it is? I'll give you each one guess.
That someone has not been brought up.
Not been brought up. Not been mentioned. It's an Eagles related.
It's Eagles related.
Yep.
AJ Brown.
That's it.
Jenks got to buy me a Coke.
Yeah, that's it. AJ Brown. Not once did we or the callers bring up, yeah, but you got to remember they didn't have A.J. Brown, and if they have A.J. Brown, they win that game.
No, they don't.
Because while that is true, that A.J. Brown missing is a vital part of their offense. Huge piece. I think we all, us and the callers and the listeners, knew that even with A.J. Brown, they ain't winning that game.
That's great. That's a good point you make, Pat.
And I think it's very easy to go, well, like, you get A.J. Brown in there, and it could be like, no. This team's flaws, and it's one of the reasons why, Bob, you picked the Bucks. But this team's
the only
flaws
one who did on this show.
He has the ambition and drive. We talked about this. We don't. We went lazy. We went chalk, and we ended up looking like idiots once again because of it. Because the team's flaws just show themselves. And I think it's very easy to go, oh, well, you're without your number one receiver. And I feel like that's a Stan Van Gundy take. Oh, they lost because they don't have the number one receiver. No, there's more to the story. And that story is that even with A.J. Brown, are you making up the difference? Yes, Julio Jones leaving that game had an impact, but it wasn't so much where all of a sudden the play calling was incredible. The play calling was bad. So the fact that no one brought up A.J. Brown in basically 2 shows, I think is a really, really, really strong point. It's a feather in the cap of the callers.
I agree with you, and it's a testament to how bad things were going.
Yes, unfortunately,
it was
true.
just not even he would help. And you're talking about an all-pro receiver, but I think it was to the point where followers, us, fans, everybody was just like, it wouldn't have mattered. And it wouldn't have because they weren't being put – they couldn't do anything. It's such a disconnect between players and coaches, in my opinion.
Well, how do you label the offseason for the Eagles then, Bob? I mean, as far as they're staring it down at NovaCare today.
Yeah.
Today's where all the introspection begins today.
It's funny. I put this question out there, and I forgot to give it an answer myself.
Do you have an answer?
One word to describe how this offseason needs to be for the Eagles. I'll say active.
Okay.
I mean, really active, but I can't say so active with all capital letters. You have to draft well. You have to plug holes well. You have to figure out what you're doing. Obviously, you're probably going to have to hire an offensive and defensive coordinator and maybe a head coach. So how do you label it? Is this a win-now situation for the Eagles?
Yes.
It's not a rebuild.
No, this is but it's not a retooling. It's not my word is ambitious, which is funny because of the earlier discussion that we had.
It's on everybody's mind.
But that's where it is for me. It's ambitious. I want an ambitious offseason. I want an aggressive offseason as far as getting younger, getting more talented, plugging holes. I don't want any stone unturned. I don't want to tweak. So I want an ambitious offseason. Very aggressive.
Yeah, okay. Pat, if I were to put it a little bit different way, Where is this organization right now? Is it a rebuild? Is it a retool? Should they tank? Should it what?
No,
like,
I think it's a real retool.
Retool? Okay.
Yeah, I think that getting a different coaching staff in here could do this team a lot of good. And I think you get some competency, and we're back. You got to fill some holes.
Yes, but that's every year. Every team
that's every single year.
Exactly.
It is. It's every single year. And I think it's actually a good thing that when you look at the pending free agents and there's two, maybe three where you go, okay, I want that guy back. And other than that, it's a bunch of, all right, thank you for your service. Have a good day. So, you got to fill some holes and maybe get a linebacker that knows how to be a linebacker. That'd be cool, like a good one. It won't happen, but, we can dream.
It's one of my favorite things about this fan base, though, is that in other cities, they will literally go to the ends of the earth on that X app, and they will be defending their team despite whatever happens. Eagles fans almost uniformly were like, yep, that sucked. We sucked. Here's what needs to happen. There's none of this false defense because you're a fan. Oh, I'm a fan of this team. I don't want to hear them criticized. Eagles fans are the most critical of their team on social media. They're the ones who turn when things are bad and call it out. I love that about this fan base.
Yeah, me too. And it's like the text I talked about earlier from my nephew who lives down in Baltimore. And he's like, man, do Eagles fans have to relax calling for head coaches' jobs? And I'm like, no, man.
No, they really don't.
No, they don't. Like, whether you agree with it or not, or whether it's going to happen or not, it's not out of line that a Super Bowl champion coach from a year ago, he's on the fence right now.
Do you take it that Adam Schefter rolls his eyes a bit at this fan base? As far as their...
I think he thinks it's an overreacting fan base.
I think he does too.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, and it's not a rip on Adam, he doesn't live here. I think it's because his feet aren't here. I don't think he shops here. I don't think he lives here. I don't think he interacts with the regular populace of here.
Yeah,
so he doesn't understand the same way he would understand the Michigan fan base. If we asked him about the Michigan fan base, he lived it. He breathed it and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what's the popular take on Los Angeles fans?
Apathetic, show up
they're late. Yeah, they're just there for the. And then when I was covering the Sixers, and I guess they were really good. Half hour before the game, the place was filled, and did you have the stars come walking in mid-first quarter with drinks in their hands, and Billy, what's his name? Billy Crystal coming in and sitting down next to you, like whatever. Yeah, that happens. But no, for the most part, when they were really good, those fans were there when I was covering the league.
And it is just something that I love about. There's the old SEC football slogan that it just means more. And Eagles football just means more.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, it's no knock on any other franchise, but it means more in this city than any of the other sports also. To the general populace, to the largest amount of people, the city is just swung with emotion by this. I remember the Sixers with Croce. You remember it. You remember, Pat Croce being there, standing near City Hall during lunch hour, giving out T-shirts in the median. And like you remember, this city can get really, really passionate, and some cities don't understand it, and some fan bases don't understand it.
Yeah, it's
happening in Detroit right now. By the way, my buddy runs
the Pistons.
My buddy runs the sports station in Detroit, and he says he's never seen the city with the energy that it's got right now for the Lions, and people are like crying over winning a playoff game.
That was cool watching that the other night. That's a pretty good story.
Hey, it's going to be a big day today on The Fanatic. Obviously, it's exit interview day at NovaCare. So what do? You carry the 97.5 The Fanatic app with you everywhere, so you're right on top of it. That way you can listen to Andrew and Ray take you through the midday, and then you're flipping over during the best show ever, and you're checking it out this afternoon. Are there any big news bombs going to be coming out of NovaCare today? None of us really expecting a lot, but it could happen. We'll see what